Welcome everybody to the Social Dig, the greatest underrated show on the World Wide Web. I am your host, Mr. Rob G, and as always, we're going to be digging into the topics that keep you talking and the talk that keeps you thinking. So come on in, kick your feet up, get an ice cold beverage, and get ready to join the conversation. Yes, I always feel good when I get back to the Social Dig. It's been a long time. My plate is obviously pretty full. I've been sick lately, so hard to man two channels at once. I mean, there's no denying I'm a one-man show when it comes to getting everything put together, booking guests and doing all these things. So I end up at the end of the day not having the most amount of time to get this stuff going, but I'm kind of structuring it into a way to where I'm booked up on after hours, which in turn frees me up during the week to do things for this channel, The Social Dig. So totally glad you guys came on in to join me and hang out with peers, right? This is where we have the conversation, some of the tough conversations that we can't have over at the after hours because it might be too risque, right? We don't want to, put that channel at risk. So we take the risks over here. We had some trolls that came recently in the last few episodes that we have. If you were here, you remember. And it's definitely something we don't want to repeat. So I'm going to definitely start handing out more wrenches on this channel so we can take care of that troll patrol. So it may not happen right now at this moment, but tonight I'm going to be adding some more wrenches in here just so we can make sure that the trolls stay under control and we really get the real experiencers to come up here and talk about their experiences. That's what this is for. We do this for the positive progression in humanity, anything that moves the needle forward for humanity. And I've spilled some of that over to the after hours, so some of the same logic and work ethic. So, that's why this channel complements that one and vice versa. So love it. Love that you guys all came over to hang out. We're going to get into some really cool stuff. I'm hoping to hear from some new faces tonight, even some of the old faces. Definitely don't be afraid to hop up on stage. As you know, or as you may not know, we have the Callin Line here. And let me go ahead and bring up the call-in number here, which is 856-843-3444, or that's 856-THE-DIGG. You can always call in on the call-in line and talk over the phone, or there's a link pinned in the chat tonight at the top, and you can click that StreamYard link, which will bring you up on stage. And yeah, we'd love to hear from you tonight. That's what this is all about. So with that being said, let's go ahead and welcome everybody who graciously came over from the after hours, and let's see who we got in the chat. Let me see. Going back here, it's like the chat is already pretty lit right now. So let me get back to the beginning and see who came over. We got Paramar coming. Thank you for coming on over from the after hours, Paramar. We do appreciate you. We got Izzy Beth again. Izzy Beth, hey, thanks for coming through tonight, Izzy Beth. Appreciate you coming. PuckElf, yes, first time here. We appreciate you coming on over, PuckElf. I know you've gotten on camera over there on the Fessler show before, so I know you're not you're not sleep to this at all, and you can join at any time just by clicking the link at the top of the chat there. Yep, PuckElf said, didn't know Rob had a side gig. Actually, this is the gig I had first. I've been doing this channel. I have season 1. I've been doing this for like a year. And then I was brought on to after hours after this. So they saw the work we were doing here and appreciated it and offered me to come on over there to Space Out Radio, which I agreed, and the rest is history. So thanks for coming on over, PuckElf. We got Cosmic Joe Chronicles coming on in saying, hey, what's up? Appreciate you, Cosmic Joe Chronicles. Thanks for showing up tonight. Definitely said to Mothman, thanks for coming in. Let's keep going down here. Brandon Coast, thanks for coming on in. Thanks for coming to the Social Dig. where we get it in. Let's see who else we got. Let's see. Christine, definitely. Thank you for coming on in. We appreciate you. Let's see. We got... Let's see. Make sure we pick everybody up in the chat here. Welcome to the show. Thank you for coming on in. Appreciate you. Always a great conversation with Major Lee. Appreciate you for coming on in. Let's see. All right. Okay, yeah, chat is currently caught up to date. So yeah, we haven't done this in a while, so I know notifications are going out. Some people may not be aware that we're doing this tonight, and it's my own fault, but I'm tied up with the after hours, so this is for now the secondary thing that I'm doing. But it's on me. I have to bring this back up to speed and get this content pumping out. We still have the Scientology show we have to do. I have that all set up. We just need to do it. And then we have another show following that about the government. What's the government's plan for disclosure? If it happened tomorrow, what would be the government's plan? I have some ideas, and we're going to end up talking about that during that show. If you haven't, please consider going ahead and hitting that subscribe button if this is your first time here. If you might be in the background lurking, not in the chat, consider making this a place that you come back, because the floor is open for you. As long as we can stay away from religion, politics, keep curse words out of the mix, and talking about things that we really shouldn't talk about. Anything that moves the needle for humanity, I'm open to doing with you. And I think it's something that is, made for this channel. So let's go ahead and get into it. Once again, like I said, you can call in at any time, 856-843-3444. That's 856-THE-DIGG, or click the link that's pinned at the top of the chat, and you can come on stage and speak your mind. I think one of the things, why don't we can kick it off with what we talked about tonight. We covered a few different things with our fantastic guest, Jackie Harmon, who will be in Reno for the Spaced Out Radio Reno trip. So make sure you guys show up for that if you can. But tonight we talked about a few different topics. We talked about the paranormal. We talked about Bigfoot. And we talked about extraterrestrials. Pretty much all the subjects that we cover within this field, minus the specific cryptids that might be out there. I'd love to hear some experiences that you guys may have had paranormal. I've shared my sighting, shadow people. I've shared my UFO sighting. Any receipts that I have, I brought them to the table to show for all the world to see. And it would be nice to, if someone else had some of that data out there, that they went ahead and presented it, or maybe even talked about a story that, something that you went through, an experience, extraterrestrial related, paranormal related. Maybe you saw a dog man, a Sasquatch, something along those lines. I think the bottom line is, in which we pretty much all understand, is that there is definitely something to what's going on here, and we are really at the beginning stages of trying to figure out what that thing is. So the more conversation we can have, the more data we can put up on the wall to catalog for other people to cross-reference, experiences or things that they may have gone through. So taking a look into the chat here, let's just see. I like what Callin Joe Chronicles is saying. Hit the like if you wouldn't mind. If you wouldn't mind, hit that like button and help a channel like this grow. We're trying to get to like 500 subscribers is the first goal that I would love to hit on this channel. And I think really with a lot of like-minded people who are trying to move the needle forward, I think that is an achievable goal here on this channel. And I'd love to do that. So tell a friend, share this. If you haven't hit subscribe, consider doing so. We are, I think, 30, maybe 38 away from hitting 400. And then the goal is 5 after that. So once we get that going, I want this channel to, I've been doing this on this channel. This is season 2 that I'm in right now. So I have a full season of episodes. I have 44 episodes in the first season where we've done shows on various topics. Plus, if you add in the call-in show, I would think we're close to like episode 25 or something like that, just on the call-in show alone. If you go back through my archive for that, you'll see we had a lot of great conversations on various topics, really deep at times, things to make you think. You know what I mean? I think if we're going to have a conversation, then it can't just be a random conversation. It needs to be something that moves the needle, and that's what we're here to do. And I know you guys are all like-minded, and you guys are pushing for disclosure like everyone else out there. You want the answers, and I want the answers too. I don't have all the answers. I can just tell you my own experiences, and the same thing for you all. But that's the beauty of it, because my experiences, along with your experiences, along with everyone else's experiences out there, once we start putting all those things together, we have a really strong catalog of data that shows that this phenomena is a real thing, right? We're not just spinning our wheels doing these shows and doing it for the sake of doing it. We're doing these shows in order to make a difference in or impact rather in what it is that we're trying to get after disclosure. How should humanity set itself up once we have shown that all these things are true, that there are ET craft in our skies? These craft are coming from somewhere else. These craft have living extraterrestrial beings either controlling them or piloting them, and we need to figure out what's going on. It's like I talked with Jackie earlier tonight. You know, a good point is that, you know, we go out into the world and we are made to believe that we are safe in the things that we do, going out into the woods. You know, I occasionally will do that. I won't go deep in the woods, but I'm not above camping. I'm not above taking a drive through the desert for hours in the middle of nowhere. I'm not above doing that. But I would love to know if there's something there that would affect me, right? Because then I can make a decision if that's really what I want to do or not. And I think we should all have that choice. But the way it appears is that at the least we know our government probably knows about alien abductions. I don't see how they couldn't with so many stories out there, and they're kind of just helpless as far as what they can do to prevent it or stop it. Or some people believe they've made an agreement that says that ETs can take so many of us in exchange for information for the government. I don't, that we can't say it's true, but I think it's in the realm of possibility, right? And that's what we're trying to figure out. We're not trying to stamp the fact that, all the things that we theorize are facts. Even though we know there's some channels out there that do stand on, hey, I got this data. I'm the only one that knows this data. Let me tell you, this is why they're here. And I don't really sign into that, because I'm under the belief that no one knows the answers for sure completely. I don't believe a human on this planet knows all the answers. So, at the only thing you can really do to navigate through this is to talk it through like we're doing, or to have the ET sitting right here in a Q&A session where we can ask and get questions answered, and it's a collective thing. But if you ask me, I've said this before, I don't think the extraterrestrials even have all the answers. I think they have a good number of answers. Some of the things that we probably are trying to figure out, they can answer. They can bring us up to speed to where they're at in the conversation. But I bet you that if we had a week to sit with the ETs and we could pick their brain the entire time and learn and kind of elevate our consciousness, I think we still get to a point to where they've run out of answers on some of the questions that we have. And then we find out that it's potentially possible that none of these living entities out there have all of the answers. So this is, if they're a million years ahead of us, then even if we took a million years to learn what it was to bring ourselves up to speed, we would still not know everything that's going on. So that makes this wonderful, what we're doing here and the ability to have these conversations. Let's go ahead and take a look in here. PuckElf says, I'm Aussie Rob and I'm telling a Bigfoot story. There will be a lot of bloody, colorful language. And I'm not against that, PuckElf. As long as we can stay away from derogatory comments, I'm okay with colorful language. As long as we aren't doing, having conversations that disrespect anyone, then I think it's fair game. This is the place for you to have that conversation. So definitely know that we're totally open to that. Language, obviously try to keep it. You can't just go off and say all type of F and B's and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, we're all adults here, so we can definitely handle some colorful language if we can keep it within a respectable place. So would love to do it, and you don't have to do it tonight, PuckElf. You can do it whenever you're ready. You can listen in tonight, kind of just hang out with everyone, or you can jump in and jump on the stage at any time, any of you. So with that being said, let's keep going through the chat here. And Izzy Beth, Scientology, clear it. Oh man, if you go back and watch the Scientology show, and maybe I'll re-air it like right before we do the next one. I have it set for Wednesday that I want to do the part 2, and I've been feeling a lot better health-wise. So I'm going to spend the next few days after this show is over making sure that that's fine-tuned so we can actually do that show. So maybe we'll review the first show right before we air the second show so we could tie it all together. And I think that might be a thing. But as you all know, if you watch the first show, Scientology is doing some wild, crazy stuff to human beings. And I think it's pretty crazy that they're able to do that. So with that being said, let me go through here. Yeah, PuckElf says, but I'll try to tone it down. Yeah, that's all we ask, PuckElf. Let's do something to. Let's make sure that it's content that whoever watches this down the line, that they can get something from the points that are being made. But yeah, we're open to colorful conversation here for sure. Let's see. What else do we have here? Going through the chat here. Let's see. So to make sure I haven't missed anything. So we do have a guest in the back here. Let's see. Yeah, Cosmic Joe, yes, you were on 700 subscribers for years and did an AEW mystery conclusion video that has 486,000 views and you have 1.6 thousand subs. And yeah, and that's the thing. See, here's what I won't do. And not saying that you're doing this, because I think that's awesome that you have found a viral video that was able to bring you up. But the goal of this channel, every single conversation has to be one that moves the needle for the sake of humanity. So sometimes for some people, having those tough conversations, they're not ready for it. You know what I mean? We've sat here and we've talked about some stuff that really jogs the mind, and it isn't like something that's probably super popular in the main realm of discussion. But what I'm hoping is that we get enough like-minded human beings that are here that would enjoy diving into those type of conversations. So even if we experience slow growth here, I'm okay with that, as long as every person that hits that subscribe button is a person that really wants to move the needle and really wants to join these conversations. The ratio, we have like 300 and a little over 360 subscribers, and we usually get 120, 130, 140 views. Most of the people that watch are subscribers. So we have like 80% subscribers, 20% non-subscribers, which means that the people who hit this button care about having these sort of conversations. And I think those numbers are the ones that matter. So if it's slow growth, I'm okay with that. Let's go ahead and do that, as long as the people that come aboard are people that want to move the needle. You know what I mean? And so we do have our guest here in the back that we're going to bring up here in just a moment. I just want to make sure no one else is talking about anything here. Let's see. Van Gold saying, hit the likes, y'all. Please do so. Please do so. Let's see. Okay. Da, 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 da. Yeah. Okay. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in our guest backstage, one of our first callers here, and anyone else can join. I think the stage can hold up to 10 people. So please feel free to join us here tonight. But I'll go ahead and introduce one of our friends here, PuckElf. PuckElf stepping on stage. How are you?
Yeah, good dude. How's yourself, Rob? Good to see you. Sideshow, first time
Yeah,
here.
definitely glad to have you. I gotta tell you, I've seen you speak on Fessler's channel. I'm a fan of your viewpoints. You have a lot of great viewpoints. When you were on there, and I'm just glad to have you over here. So appreciate you
Oh,
coming on through.
yeah. Got a
Yeah,
couple of. Yeah, I don't know where to start. Yeah, I've got a couple of paranormal stories. There's probably saying g'day is probably the best way. Hi, chat. There we go.
yeah, and you can take the stage. We're all ears. If you want to jump into something that you experienced, let's do it.
Okay, so I saw this thing, and I call it a bunyip. And that's like drawn with like gesture, trying to get the emotion of it down, more than trying to be too accurate of it.
Mm-hmm. Said a
And
bunyip.
a bunyip is like an evil spirit chimera rather than a physical cryptid in Australia. It's more seen as like an evil water spirit that'll lure you in and drown you, and they all look a bit different. There's
Okay.
no one type of bunyip. They're just known as an evil water spirit. And then here's a more kind of
Oh,
body
we.
shape of it. Yeah, and so that's kind of the vibe I get off it. And it had these multi-jointed elbows, like loose sticks and twigs, but it had these eagle claws on the end of them as hands. And it was wearing
Yeah.
some kind of weedy, roby cloak, but it did have the hump of a kangaroo, and I didn't see a tail. I've just done that as possible, maybe.
Right.
And it did have some weird mask with glowing eyes, like it had a white bone face with some antlers on it. And we've got introduced red deer, but they're not a native thing. And so I don't know what the hell a bunyip's doing wearing a deer. And so that's weird.
Yeah. Where did you see that?
I grew up near Pigeon House Mountain in Australia. That's an Aboriginal sacred place. And I'm one of the only white fellas I know that were actually inducted into the tribe when I was 13 years old. And we were camping there in an off season with just my family, no one else. It was just us there. And I went down to do the morning job as a little kid to fill up your metal boiler, what we call a billy, to make your cup of tea in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And down there along the river, there was this misty thing, and I noticed its eyes flash at me, and it was like giving me kind of this vibe in its mind. And I'm just like, I know what that is. I'm not going near that. And I ran up to go tell Dad. And as I turned around, it didn't go into the water or deep into the mist. It literally just turned into the morning fog and just floated back over the water. It was the
Wow.
weirdest thing. I almost swore then. But yeah, my old man's just like, nah, pack up, we're going home. Elfo's seen weird stuff, and he's like the avo out of all of us. Let's go. We didn't stay long after that.
Yeah, definitely. With it being able to dematerialize like that, what do you feel then? Do you feel like these things live here, or do you think they cross over from another dimension, or what do you think?
I think they're connected to this mortal plane as some kind of spirit of nature, is what I think the bunyip is. And it's not a nice one because Australia's a very harsh bush. And it's that kind of nature that it can be beautiful in a sunset, but if you're not prepared, it doesn't care if you live or die, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard about that with the bush, and I know there's a lot of cryptids that are specific to Australia. Bunyip is one of the ones we covered in trivia, so that's actually cool that you brought that one up. What else do you have out there? What are some of the other famous things that are out there in Australia?
We got three kinds of yowies and possibly a fourth one that's like a giant cannibal inland thing. Other cryptids besides yowies, but Australia's more of a land rather of like chimeras and cryptids like dogmens and stuff. We have a lot of like evil spirit in our folklore. You know, like if you
Hmm.
don't know that mountain, the spirit of the mountain is what you got to worry about more so than what lives on it. You know, yeah.
Hmm. So, and with there being ancient people there in Australia, the Aborigines
Some
and
of the
things
most
like that,
in the world, yeah.
do they talk about these stories? You look at them, obviously they're the same as like natives here, and they are connected to the old history. What type of stories do they tell? Do they kind of
My,
validate some of the things you see?
my Aboriginal elder from the Yuin tribe on the southeast coast of Australia, Gabu Ted Thomas, is passed away now though, but he used to tell me stories back in the Dreaming Time festivals that he'd actually go walkabout for 3 days of the whole week. And he'd just be up on a mountain and he'd come back and he'd tell us all this stuff the Yowies have communicated with him. And he'd go talk to them. And I don't know if that meant speaking his language or it was a mental thing. But I tend to get the sense in hindsight, now I'm older and into it more, that it was a bit of both, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When you're looking at ancient people like that, one thing that I look at, there's or I believe this is off the coast of India. They have an island called North Sentinel Island. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah,
And
is
you
that
have
the
the
one you're not allowed to
Sentinelese.
go? Yeah, you're not allowed to go there because they're a primitive culture who've actually
Yes,
shot down helicopters with their javelin bows. They've shot down low
yes.
flying choppers, man, trying to do surveys on them.
They
They'll
have
wreck, bro. Yeah, don't go
they
there.
have killed people who have come to shore, and yeah, and
I
and the
think it's
reason why
like
I bring them up
I
is
think it's
because
likely the survivors of the Moroccan slave trade. And so now anyone that comes near their shores, they're just absolutely no way. And that's what I think they might be, survivors of the old Barbary slave pirates.
and when you think about it, it's probably, and there was other examples of old tribes like that have been disconnected from modern technology, and the perfect way to kind of put in perspective how we're feeling with these extraterrestrials, them being so far advanced of us, is looking at these Sentinelese and how they look at us visiting them, and how they look at our ships and helicopters as things that they never could have imagined, and
Yeah. You've
like magical things that
the
we
term
think are
cargo
everyday
cult.
things.
Yeah, Rob, the cargo cult. It's like there's islands in the Pacific that the Americans used to stage to fight the Japanese, and the locals had never seen outsiders before. And then the American military had all these supplies and salt and flour and butter and cans of spam and all this awesome stuff they'd never seen. And so they worship this god named John From, and we think it might mean John from America. And they build these
Mm.
fake airport towers, and they sit there with hollow bamboo, looking at the sky, doing a ritual, waiting for John From to bring back the gifts. Yeah,
Is
that's
that the one you're talking? Are you talking about the where they have actually built uh recreations of airplanes on the island? And
yeah.
yeah, okay, okay, I've seen that.
I think what's his name? One of the King Philip, has like a cargo cult after him as well somewhere. Like, yeah, he's got another one. One's like the John From cargo cult in the Pacific, and then there's like a Commonwealth King Philip one too. Yeah,
And the way I look at that is they look at, off their shores, they look out into the open ocean. They only know what it is that they know from living on the island. They don't know if the water ever ends anywhere. They don't know what the other side of the water is. So anything that comes in is something unfathomable for them. And it's just like it's the same paradigm that we're facing looking out into space. Space is the ocean, and we don't know what's on the other side of that. And it's just strange because, without having those pockets of segregated and disconnected peoples, we wouldn't have any realistic way of knowing how they might perceive something
you
as
would need a
magical.
you need that frame of reference, and that's what I tell people about all the Armageddon doom and gloom. It's like, even if the grid goes down, humanity's fine, man. There's still people living out there in the woods eating monkeys with blow darts, right? We'll be fine.
What do you think? So, with that being said, how do you view things on the opposite side of disclosure? If it happened tomorrow, how do you think things change for us? Do things change at all? Where do you think we go from there?
I think for most regular people, the sad fact is they're just too worn down by life. And I think the argument that public panic was just an old thing from the 50s they made up, and it never made any sense. If you told the public there's aliens out there tomorrow, but they still had to go to work, pay their bills, and no one's shooting lasers at them, 90% of people just don't care. They don't think about their place in the universe enough to even care,
Yeah, and I can see that, and I can feel that too. I can feel that could be the case. That people look at this and they just go on about their business the next day. But my thing that I think what may happen is that, obviously the powers that be rule the world in any country you look at. And I think that the people, for the most part, as long as you're in a westernized country where things are free, you have the freedom to move around and do things, so you're satisfied technically with how life is going. But then you have third world countries where they have dictatorships and they're told what they can do and what they can't do. I think that if we have a situation where humanity can all get together, those people who are under dictatorships are not going to want to do that. And at the same time, we sympathize and we have compassion for those people. So we're not going to want them to go through that. And I just feel like that brings like a revolution for humanity where we can't really continue with the way things are. We can't just go back and go to work. Because I think at the very least, even in these protected countries that we live in, westernized countries, that the one thing that we really have a problem with is the government lying to us, and then the government hiding things from us, and then the government taking taxes from us and taking half of everything that we earn as free citizens and then using it for whatever they want to use it for. I think on the other side of disclosure that we're not okay with that anymore, and we want to change that. So I think we come to the table and we are okay with some of the ways things are set up, but I think that we also want to renegotiate kind of the power structure and how they come down on us.
I think global politics would change for the better, knowing it. But I'm also reminded of the satire movie Starship Troopers with the propaganda that could go the other way. Like, are we going to turn into Warhammer 40K and start getting this xenotech? But I do think humanity itself would change for the better because I believe in the goodness of people. But it also reminds me of the scary side of it, Starship Troopers. If we all got together under one banner, that's a bit too much power for one person.
Yes, PuckElf. That's exactly the show that I have set up. So we have a Scientology show set up for Wednesday. Then the following Wednesday is a show that says it's post-disclosure. What's the government's plan? And without giving too many spoilers about the show, I'll just say that I feel like it is quite possible that if you have powers that be, they're in a situation where going through disclosure process means that they may lose power. There's a threat that they lose power, that things could change on the drop of a dime. All of a sudden, you have martial law in places that were free because now they have to put the clamps on you. They're showing right now that they're drawing lines in the sand saying, we don't care about disclosure. We don't care if you get it or not. They're telling you this right in your face. And I feel like that if catastrophic disclosure happened tomorrow and it was out of their control, that they would probably put the clamp down on the citizens in a way that we are not comfortable with. You know what I mean?
That's what I was reminded by when you brought that up under one banner. And if we were all against the Xeno or with the Xeno or the aliens, whatever you call them, I'm just going from Warhammer here. And it just reminds me a little bit Starship Troopery, like you're saying. Yeah, could go either way, yeah.
So that's the troubling part of it. And I just think that it could be the government that you sit up and you say, oh, we're the safest here, we have democracy, we would never go that route. I just feel like if tomorrow meant they lost all control of their population, I think then they would definitely put soldiers in the streets and things of that nature. It could really turn into that one world government scenario that they mentioned, where everything's under one rule at that point, and you have to follow the rule. And I think what can we do to stop that if that ends up being the case? You know what I mean? If they turn the guns on us, how do we defend that, or how do we combat that?
Even just looking at what the farmers are doing in Europe now, man, people are pulling out of globalism. Like the only thing that's kept the EU afloat in the last 2 years is the Ukraine war. And,
Right.
It's got to have something to do with it too. I don't want to get into that, but it's like Brexit was leaving, Argentina's voting away. Greece is like, can we just leave, please? We got forced into it. Everyone wants out of these massive deals where they're not making their own rules. Like they're puppets to this chancellor in Germany making all these great ideas for other people to go live by,
And then and here's the biggest problem of all, because we know the American government influences a lot of other governments out there, especially within NATO. They're going to do what the United States says to do. And which is why we're able to reach into other countries and take their UFO crash retrievals. We're controlling that whole narrative. And I feel like even though they're quiet, those other countries, they would be complicit with the United States if it ever came down to we have to give up power. The United States and that's why they want to do a controlled disclosure versus catastrophic disclosure. The controlled disclosure simply means that they want to do it on their terms, so that once disclosure hits, they still are able to have some semblance of control and power on the other side of this.
I've got a theory about what all this smoke and dog and pony show is with this Congress stuff at the moment, and this, like, what do they call it? Disclosing, and these like skiffs and stuff. Well, they're trying to set up that oversight board committee specifically about UFOs, right? And so without that congressional mechanism in place already, how can the president come out and say there's UFOs? Because then everyone's up in arms and everyone's getting fired, everyone's going to jail, everyone's losing money, and they can't have that. And so exactly. I reckon this is a slow thing to set up the political mechanisms, and then like that we're not going to hang you, just tell us the truth and give us the stuff.
Exactly.
It's just set that up,
And then to add to that, that gives them protections. And then in theory, it kind of gives them, it allows them a mechanism to protect the totality of the government from potentially being eradicated by the people.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Reprisals from themselves, right? Because they're all in bed with these investment war companies and all that stuff, right? And they go, and you know how rich people hate each other more than they care about us, right? And exactly. That's what I think. I think it's definitely going to come from the president, and he's just going to say, "Yep, they're here," and then we'll have the congressional set up committees and stuff to go through it. But without that mechanism, it'd just be a nightmare if he said it. And I think that's what this is, a slow build up to. I think it will come from the top rather than a disclosing from a military person. I think the president will have to come out and say it.
And that is only if they can control the disclosure. If ETs decide to show up tomorrow, they're all over the world in the sky, they're there, then their plan is out the window at that point, and it means that either they have to implement a new plan immediately because the current plan they have for a long-term 20-30 year disclosure process is out the window. And I just feel like that backup plan that they have is a worst case scenario. If it hits the fan tomorrow, we're not able to implement our plan, then we will lock the streets down. We will take control of our land and our people, and then it turns from a democracy into a dictatorship overnight. And then it's a dictatorship for the best interest of the people. Let them tell it. And I just feel like that it's a fine line between, we saw it with the pandemic and how things changed so drastically within a matter of days, that showed you that things can, for one, be locked down, the whole world shut down and locked everyone inside, and that it's very possible that they could implement something like that if there's a disclosure that they can't control.
But do you think you could convince people to go along with that again in hindsight? I'm not sure about that. But you also reminded me of a great quote from Mike Tyson, and it's that even the government and everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face.
Yes.
And that's what the aliens showing up would be. The government's just like, oh, man. Well,
see, but the thing is that, with the whole COVID thing, in westernized countries, they just told us, hey, we would rather you guys stay inside. We really need to stay inside. Where in other countries like China, the military and the policing forced people to stay inside, which is the element that we didn't experience during the pandemic in westernized countries. But I think that that's fully in play if catastrophic disclosure happens. I feel like it's the only thing they can do, because otherwise it allows people to stew, figure out, hey, wait a minute, we don't really need what they're serving us up here. So they have to immediately be able to adapt and control the narrative if tomorrow. And I think that's their backup plan. I think their worst case scenario is, we would hate to do this, but if disclosure happens tomorrow, we're shutting everything down. Everyone, we're going to take control of the situation. And that means, it may be, I think that might be where that false flag thing maybe leans into it, to where now all of a sudden, okay, these ETs are here, they're bad, so everyone needs to stay in the house. We're going to put military on the streets to protect you. But what you've really done is allowed them to implement martial law. You know what I mean? And I think we're so close to that happening.
You know what the saddest part of that is, Rob? Is the fact that they can even find Americans willing to do that to other citizens.
Right.
If you're working for the government, or you're the policeman, and you're just going to stand there and say, just doing my job, man. That doesn't fly. Here in America, we have a lot of militias, as you saw with the whole January 6th thing. We have elements of that are training every day for a situation where the government loses control and they have to step up to be their own force. And I think that it ends up being a slippery slope, because if the government steps in, then the militias also step in. In Australia during COVID, man, it was like, because we've never had a big terrorist attack here. But for 20 years, our cops have been drilled. Anti-terror watchdogs. Here's your SWAT equipment. And when they let them loose on the public over COVID, my God, they were just practicing their anti-terror drills on the public. It was shocking, dude.
Exactly. And then that's where there's a line you draw between military and police. I think the police get shut down in a situation like that, because the police are still in a situation where they may not be ex-military, and where they're more connected to humanity and more in a position to have compassion for humanity, whereas the military is taking a order and they're executing it, and they're doing it because it's the order. You know what I mean? And that's the scary part.
That's the psychological training they go through to make them
Yes.
And can you blame the individual for that, or do you blame the hierarchy? I'd rather blame the hierarchy.
Oh, it's a fact. It's a fact. It's the powers that be. Period. America has ended up coming out on top as being the world power, the world police. America effectively runs the world as it is. There is no way in the world that any power structure is going to want to give up power. Powerful is a hell of a drug, and there is no way that power hungry people want to give that up. And there is only a few scenarios where the power balance could shift on this planet, and that is either with an asteroid coming out of the sky and hitting the planet, with the nuclear fallout all over the world, or ET disclosure. These are the only three things. Asteroid is likely, but we can see it coming at the very least. For the most part, nuclear war can be manipulated by the powers that be if they have agreements not to do so. So the one thing that is out of their control really is ET disclosure. They can't stop that from happening. They have no control of when it happens. And that is the one thing that could happen literally tomorrow that could change everything as we know it. The comfortable space that we think we have is in our society that we think is a freedom, the ability to walk around and do these things. We're like, hey, we're free. We're happy with the way this is going. They could turn that switch so quickly and make it a dictatorship in a moment.
I tend to think people just in general were shocked with COVID, but in hindsight, I don't know if they could do it to the same generation again. They'd have to wait a while to replay that. Because if they tried it again, I think a lot of people would just say stuff,
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, that's why I'm doing a show on that topic, because there's so many ways that could go, and I think that it's very plausible to at least have the conversation, because it's plausible that something like that could be on the horizon. It could be that, I mean, our country here in America, we've done so many horrible things to our fellow citizens. It's insane. We've put them through syphilis, exposed them to syphilis and LSD and all sorts of other things that they've experimented on with us. And we're the people, and they've done this to us. So there is no doubt in my mind that there's someone up there in that power, that hierarchy, and that power structure that would not hesitate to flip the switch and turn this into a military, what do you call that? A militarized state?
Of course, there's always someone there wanting to get hold of the red button and say, this is mine. Of course, and I think that's like why we have those like hierarchical structures and peer pressure and stuff, to try and keep those people away from that stuff. But you reminded me of something, and it's a theory I've got about why are cattle being mutilated in the American inland heart, and why are the same parts they mutilate in cattle also the places people say they're getting things shoved in, like all their soft tissues, right? No one's taken a biopsy of your strong arm muscle, right? They're not going to have a strong arm muscle, but
then you look into the whole Neuralink thing and have to wonder what that might be tied into. Like, why?
So my theory is what they're testing for, whether it's aliens or the government testing, is how they did onshore nuclear bomb secretly in like the Nevada desert before they let it loose on the Japanese and that. Like they did their onshore testing.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And so that radiation's in the ecosystem. And in the 70s, and that's the American food bowl, and they didn't know about nuclear fallout. They were just testing them, man.
Right.
And then in the 70s, the Nuclear Watchdog Agency recommended they do random sampling of livestock across the American heartland to test for residual radiation in the food chain. And the places you would test would be things like eyes, udders, lips, genitals, anuses, soft tissues, thyroid glands. That's where all the radiation ends up. And that's where people are saying they're getting touched up, and they're the bits cut out of cows. And what if the American government invented all these forms of cancer that are now in your DNA, getting passed on to people generationally? If that got proven and the info got out, there'd be no end to the medical bills they'd have to pay. It'd bankrupt the government. And so that's why I think they're not telling us. And that's why I think they're mutilating cattle and putting things in people's bottoms.
And with that being said, you would have to wonder what they would do in order to stop that from being exposed. What
Oh,
lengths would they go to stop that? Because I'm under the belief that
global
we're in a cellular age. Cellular phones have only been around for 30, 40 years at this point, and we haven't gone through a large enough time frame for us to understand what the long-term effects are from this stuff, right? We might find out in 20 years that we have been exposed to something that gave us brain cancer because we got these phones sitting right next to our brains, and
yeah.
it may not come out until then, but it's always, oops, we didn't know, we're sorry, we'll go ahead and try to figure something out.
Modern preservatives in food, man. The stuff they were preserving food with 30 years ago is now like illegal. And that's like, oh, whoops. But, now your nana's got cancer and she's passed it on in her genes. So, too late. Yeah. We
Exactly.
don't know what preservatives do in just like 3 generations since World War II and in the invention of the canned food. We don't know what all this stuff's going to do.
Exactly. And I did a show called Top Secret Government, the Top Secret Government. And I did that one because on this channel, because people always often say, oh, the government, no, they could never hold a secret from us. Oh, they would never, 40 years, oh, they couldn't hold water for that long. And I just gave so many examples in that episode of where they were able to keep a secret. The only way that a lot of those big secrets came out with the syphilis, the Stargate, and all those programs that they put human or the fellow citizens through were only exposed through like journalism. Someone leaked some information. Otherwise, those same things would still be secrets today. And I just showed examples of all these things that they've done, which are horrible things to want to do to your citizens. And then the only reason why those things came to light and became things that we know about is because someone dug in and found out the information. They were never going to tell us that they were doing those things.
Journalism, like you're talking about, proper media detective work and getting into corporations is so rare nowadays.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
That's what I really, even though everyone doesn't like the Ross Coulthart dude over the aliens, but Australians really respect him because he's covered lots of stories throughout his entire career. Nothing to do with woo. He's just broken big major stories to the public. And the dude does his homework. We trust him. Right?
Yeah.
And
I trust him too.
so I'm down for Ross,
Yeah, we need that. We just like you stated, that's the problem is there aren't investigative journalists that go to those lengths because there's favors that get done and they are privy to sources that feed them information where you have to have
in their article to get more clicks on Google. Just
exactly
words because they are popular today.
Exactly. Now, my whole hope is that Ross stays along that path. He came into it with the right mindset, questioning why other journalists aren't hopping onto these stories. That blows his mind why this hasn't been picked up by major networks. And I was always glad when I saw him start working with News Nation because I'm like, okay, now you have a place where you can break these stories and you can get the information to the public on a major level. But now you have to make sure that you actually deliver on the info because I think and a lot of people get upset with him because I think they've seen that he's kind of somewhat turned a corner where he can say things to us like, I know of a spaceship that's so big they had to build a building around it. Well, I think you could probably give more information on that without giving up a source. At the very least, give a general part of the world where this might be at, and then leave it there and let someone else pick up the investigative part of it.
It's hard to convince an Aussie to like give you clues. Once they've said what they've said, there's like that's enough. It's hard. Just culturally, you're not going to budge him,
See, and that's why I hope that's why I don't spend a lot of time worrying about that side of it. I'm always like, okay, if you guys get some information out to the public, great. That's the cherry on top. But that's why my whole thing is we have to do it ourselves and put the data together.
When his source dies, because they've got cancer at the moment, when his source actually dies, he will reveal who it was and where it is. And so, yeah, there's a timer on it. So, yeah.
See, and that's the thing. I mean, that's what people get upset about when they talk about trust me, bro, and stuff like that, because it's like, trust me, bro, I know where this is, but you could probably give more information, but it makes you feel like that you're withholding certain information so that you can prolong your involvement in the thing. That's kind of where people kind of move or went astray from Ross Coulthard, even though I still stand behind him and I think he's doing great work. I can see where people have the problem with him holding that information that he probably could give just a little bit more.
Like me saying I back him, I'd say like I back Giorgio Tsoukalos in Ancient Aliens, even though I think 90% of it is for TV waffle, but 10% of what he's talking about is actually there, right? You know, and
exactly.
He's got to do that, and I don't know where I was going with that, but yeah, like there's always that. I just take all the information and put it into the amalgamated, what are we looking at here? And there's always going to be individuals saying like sensible things and completely nuts things at both ends of the spectrum. And I'm just trying to figure out, you know, as a whole, like I'm not really taking any one person's advice like for gospel, you know. I don't think anyone knows the real truth. Everyone's just
no one knows it.
Yeah,
we all have a little bit to add to the story, which is why we sit down and have these conversations like we're doing now, and why this channel even exists is for that very reason, for somewhere to catalog the information and go through these paces to have these conversations. That's why you'll see every show that we've done on this channel has been one that tackled some sort of topic that once you've discussed it, put you in a position where you at least thought about how things could be or how you think you could affect change on some of these things. And my whole thing is we need to come together. Like, I know you come from where I saw you first is over on Fessler's channel, right? And I've been on that channel as well in the audience. I've been on other channels as well, and I've seen you on other channels too. And the thing that I see is that we're all kind of patronizing these participating with these other channels, but we never have a place where we can actually all come together and have the discussion. Like, it's always, we talked about that over there, and then we talked about this other thing over there. How about we all got together and had all of those conversations in one place? You know what I mean? And this is my goal, and this is why I put out things like, hey, all the hosts of all these shows need to come together once a month, bring all their viewers together to have these conversations. Maybe I'm on your channel this month, maybe you're on mine's next month, maybe we're on his next month. But the point is, we could all talk.
That's why I got banned from Fessler, man, because he doesn't moderate the backstage. And God, I'm not going to drop a name, but yeah, I ended up just losing it, right? Because he's not going to say nothing, and he's too nice, which is fair enough, you know. He's a nice dude, and I never had a problem with Tom. But yeah, I'm well banned over there now. Because, yeah, I went off at a few people, and I'm just like, can you stop? If he's not going to, yeah, I'll do it.
in this space that we're in with this particular subject of the phenomena, it has to be an open discussion. It has to be a discussion where everyone gets to be heard and everyone's point is taken, not shot down or made fun of, that everyone gets to voice their concern about it because everyone has some valuable information to add to it.
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was about to say the one thing that always gets me, and I never have a problem with any channel or any people, it's when people argue semantics and start telling other people you used the wrong word for that, when clearly they meant no offense. They're just speaking in their vernacular, and it's, God, I don't like that word semantic argument, right? Like, the difference between a UFO and a UAP and someone calling that person crap. It's like, you're talking about the same thing.
Yes. Yeah, semantics and is a total distraction. And if you look around, and that's been my problem, Because I've been in this community for a lot of the time as just a viewer before I stepped into doing shows, and I would see the division within the community, and I'm like, dude, how do we have division when our common goal should be to get to where we're going with the phenomena? So how could there even be time for distractions, allowing distractions to creep in? And one thing I have an issue with within this phenomena is how people spend so much time having conversations about, oh, the government put this out today. Oh, the government says they're going to add this amendment to the bill. Or the government says, yeah, they're going to formulate this new group in about a year from now. We'll get to hear a report from that. And it's been proven to you that with everything that they've ever said or done, that it's just an attempt to kick the thing down the road. You never get what it was you thought you were going to get out of it at the end of it. And it's like, how many times do you have to go through that process before you realize that it's not coming that way? It's really a distraction for you to even talk about it.
It's just a general political thing. I think we should be able to increase term limits so people can stay in power longer to get what they want done. But also, as public servants, we need to cap them on a limit as well, like a 16-year, and then you got to reapply for a different job. You're not keeping that your whole life. You were
saying things that I've said as well. I've always felt like, especially with the state that we're in right now, that we should do something. We should organize something to where we blow up Congress and then re-put people in there again, because you have generational people who have been.
Bro.
Say again.
Let's go Guy Fawkes on it, bro. V for Vendetta.
That's what I mean. Exactly. And see, they look at movies like that and they're like, oh, I don't want them to get that message. I don't want the people to understand what the real meaning of that is. You know what I mean? Because they have generational people. You have senators that have been in there for 30, 40, 50 years, their whole lifetime, in people installed into this position where we know that most of them don't have the best interest at heart. So the best thing to do would be some sort of controlled blowing up of the Congress and the whole Senate and everything, and re-putting in people that we all agree should really be in each of these spots.
That's what V did. He posted it on the news, and so it was well evacuated, but they just couldn't stop it.
Exactly.
He's not trying to murder anyone. He's just like doing a symbol of a thing. It's like, stuff whatever this represents. Let's start again.
Brandon Cole says, "LOL, blow it up, damn Rob. I do know how to make explosives." Now, see, okay, let me take those words back. I'm not telling anyone to blow anything up, and I use the term, but what I mean is to restructure what it is that we're doing here, because I think that just like Puck said, it should be somewhere where you can't tie yourself into this political position where you're able to make decisions for a lifetime. That's just not, because you have people with special interests that keep these political people in place for only those reasons, for only those benefits. And it doesn't benefit a conversation like the one we're trying to have. It actually, their ideals are totally separate from anything that advances humanity. Rule number one for them is to keep the power structure in place, and then everything else follows after that. When humanity should be first. Humanity should be the number one concern for everyone in a position that can make a decision for the whole of us. And if you look at it, like I said before, the American government is so far over all these other countries out there that literally our Congress and our Senate really are making the rules and the decisions for the world. So we have to really have the right people in there that are going to really side for humanity. And looking at the whistleblowers and these amendments that we can't get past to further humanity's agenda lets you know that the wrong people are in there, and it's never going to come through that channel. Those people don't care about the best interests of humanity. They have a separate agenda. They will never coincide or work together.
It's the constant every 4 years of the possibility of just passing the buck onto the next person. So everyone's just trying to put toilet paper and sticky tape on everything to stick it together. Like no one's getting down. And I'd actually be down for a king again that's going to be in power for life if they fix stuff. And if they stuff up, we can drag them to the block in Tower of London again, and off with their head. We've done it before. It's
There
just
you
cut
go.
off from the buck. If we had someone that was going to have to be responsible,
There you go.
that'd be a good thing. I'm not sure. I don't like giving one person ultimate power. He's still got to have a Congress around him and a Parliament, but just give someone a go, right? Just to fix stuff instead of passing the buck every 4 years.
But see, and that's exactly so. Tomorrow, man, you're right. Reset is the word that I'm wanting to use, and Puck is right. The person in charge should be able to be susceptible to the people having an uproar and ousting them out of power. And the thing is that they make things comfortable enough for you in these westernized countries that you don't even worry about that, because you're so tied into what you have to do to pay your bills and to do all these things that they have filled up your day and your week with, to where your Saturday and Sunday you're doing something that doesn't equate to moving that needle, and they know that. And just like with the amendment and the whole control disclosure thing, 20-30 year disclosure release, that's a lifetime for some people. So the whole idea for them is to continue to put this stuff out, kick the can down the road in blocks of time that kick this into the next generation of people, and kick it into the next because it's not going to be the same feeling or emotion for that next generation. They're not going to take on all of our troubles from this generation. They may not even care about it in the next generation. That's kind of what they look at.
I blame baby boomer investors for the Australian housing crisis. There you go. There's one. There's a generational issue.
Exactly. Same sort of thing.
You reminded me of a funny thing. It's like from a Batman quote. And here you're talking about the asteroid in the Great Reset. And it's like everyone's got a plan until you're punched in the face. But it's also like Batman, where he says, I'm not the one you need, but the one you deserve.
Exactly.
That's like the Great Reset. Like the asteroid isn't the one we need, but it's the one we bloody deserve. Right? Yeah.
It is. I mean, and it's so sad to say, because and that's why it's so important, and why I get so impassioned talking about or just being happy to be involved in the moment that we're in, because like I pointed out, there's only two other scenarios besides disclosure that give us the opportunity to make these sort of changes on a large scale. Because we don't have an asteroid impact, we don't have nuclear fallout, we don't have UFO disclosure, which are all world affecting, world changing events, then any other thing that happens is not anything big enough to unite everybody, for one, in order to set this up to be changed and for change to be affected. And so
alien disclosure over the asteroid or a nuclear war. Yes, 100%. Yeah.
And that's the thing. I mean, there is, and as catastrophic and somber as those things sound, the one thing that we have control of, that we can really make the impact with, is this UFO disclosure and getting that thing out. That's why I want to do things like setting up C5 event when we go to Reno, and maybe call something in front of everybody, something that can be shown to the world, to where it's like, hey, look, these things are here, man. To everyone, they're here. Now let's sit at the table and let's figure out what our next moves are, because the conversations that are being had at these other shows, and just most shows out there, they're not talking about where we go after disclosure happens. They're just talking about they're worried about if the government is going to finally tell us on this next round of UAP reports, or if Kirkpatrick was lying or not, or if just the things that don't even matter. Of course, Kirkpatrick is going to lie. Yeah. There'll be another Kirkpatrick in his place that will lie in that case.
I think this whole thing at the moment is just setting up the mechanisms. And it's definitely going to have to come from the top, because no one trusts the government either way. And everyone knows no one trusts a whistleblower either way. It's like if whistleblowers are discredited by the government, but people don't trust the government. And it can't come from either. It's got to come from the top down. It's going to be the president saying, yep, they're here. Congress, go deal with it. I think that's how it's going to go down.
And the thing is, those people who, and I don't know, I call it like a mommy daddy complex, where a lot of people who feel like the word has to come through our governments, and like it has to come through them, the word has to officially come through them and their radar data, like it can't come any other way. And those people are slowing down the process because they're within our community, and they're the ones that are like, if they realize that if we ignored what the government was saying and with all the motions that they're taking us through now, we could be taking that energy that they're spending waiting for that report to come out to be doing something effective now that helps out now with the entire thing.
That's
You know what I
not.
mean?
I meant that like there's two sides in the community. There's like the government disclosure side, and all this is great, and then there's like your whistleblower side, and they're both trying to discredit each other. And so we're stuck in the middle somewhere. And so I think if it came from the top and they just said, right, now we've got the government and the whistleblowers together and we've got a mechanism, go. I think that'd be the best way. And I think that's what they're trying to set up.
In a perfect world, Puck, it should go that way. And that's why I always say, even though I have this view about, because history has proven that the government is not in their best interest to be involved with this. I always say that the government is made up of human beings. Like, it's a machine when they're all together, but there are individual humans within that government, and all we just need the right one to tap into their human side and their compassion for humanity to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to risk it all. I'm coming out tomorrow. I might violate an NDA, but guess what? The effect is the very next day, humanity has control over their destiny. And I know humanity will stand behind me and not allow me to have to go through these legal processes. And I say that because I hope those people watch these shows like this in Disclosure Tonights and Spaced Out Radios, because all it takes is for one of those people to be like, you know what? You guys are right, man. I'm going to go ahead and do this on behalf of humanity. And for me, I feel like that is the icing on the cake. If they do it, it's icing on the cake. And I want it to come from that way. And I always say to those government agencies that you still have a chance, even though you're looked at as liars and that you've done all, you still have a chance to save face and bring disclosure before we get it on our own. Because if we get it on our own first, then all talks are out the window, or we're going to really have to restructure this now.
Yeah.
If
it came out, we'd end up holding people's feet to the fire. People would be getting strung up, going to prison. Everyone would be losing money, and the government's all in bed with it, so they don't want this. And yeah.
Exactly. Now they have the chance to come out ahead of it and say, hey, you know what? Come out tomorrow. Get the president on the podium, say, hey, you know what? We've been lying this whole time, and this is why we did it. But these things are real. Let's figure out how we can work with this and move forward. Then you have a situation where we can try to regain trust and then go forward still with government power structures in place. But if you show that you have no interest in caring about what happens, then how can we trust you? If we get disclosure first, how can we sit down at the table and re-trust you again if you didn't want to release a secret?
You might know this, Rob. I'm not sure, but when they were negotiating this, like grace period, what you call it, amnesty period, they give him 25 years, or was it only 5? Because 5 sounds good. 25 years sounds like what they'd actually do. Did they give him 25 years? They did, didn't they?
I'm unclear on now. I can't say for sure. I don't know.
The amnesty period's 25 years, so they're just going to drag their feet and hide it and sell it off.
I'm gonna tell you what's going to happen first. What's going to happen before any of that is those whistleblower amendments and protections are going to be removed first. Those things or can be voted out just the same way they were added to the amendments. They can be taken away, and I think the window will close on that at some point. They're going to say, hey, look, no more of this. They're already showing you right now that they're drawing a line in the sand saying, we don't care if you have authority to ask for these things. We're not going to show you. They've said this clear as day.
they were negotiating the bill, and someone wanted 5 years and someone else wanted 25. And I'm not sure how it ended out or whether it even got passed. The Shima bill didn't happen, so I don't know if I'm thinking of the wrong one or I don't know.
Yeah, my whole thing is I never get too wrapped up in the wording in all, I'll read it if it comes out, but I don't put too much stock into it because the thing is that you can learn all of the intricacies of this thing that they've put together, but the end result is they never follow up. They took this last year, the UAP report, which was due October of 2022, October 31st. They just said F it and pushed it into the next year. They said, we don't care if there's a deadline or a date for you guys to have this report. We're not going to present it until we were ready to do it. And then when they did it, it just so happened that they're talking about balloon-like entities because they were setting up a play for the Chinese spy balloon, which came out 2 or 3 weeks after the UAP report. So it's obvious everything that they were doing. It's obvious.
There you go. Set up.
It's obvious. They're saying they don't care what you think. They don't care there's a deadline. We don't care if you try to hold our feet to the fire because the end result is we're not going to comply. And they're just showing you. So the next time you try to force them to comply, that's when like the show I'm doing coming up, that's when what do they activate at that point? When it's like Congress says you have to do this, the president says you have to do this or else, they're going to say, you know what? Well, we're just going to see what happens because we're not doing it. And if you try to make us do it, this is what we're going to activate. And that's where I think it could switch overnight into some stuff that we're not thinking that our government would be willing to do to us, but they've proven that they will based on historical things that we have record that they've done to us. So it's like, like you're going to just keep opening your mouth and let yourself get kicked in the teeth. That's what you're going to do. Because I see a lot of people that hinge all their bets on the government finally coming around. And it's like, dude, they keep doing this to you every single time.
Yeah, it's like I say, I don't think there's going to be like some banner and we're all going to be peaceful or whatever because, we're just not ready as a species, even no matter what they tell us,
Yeah.
Here's some cool alien on my desk that I custom did. That's Baby Yoda with a real dirty wash on him. He's got a little wooden spoon, and he's got his like frog juice. I call it Frogut, like the joke from The Simpsons. We don't sell gremlins to idiots, but the joke is reason I call it Frogut. And it's also cursed, and so he's got cursed Frogut. And so instead of doing a fall, we'll give everyone cursed Frogut.
That's what's up.
Yeah, I put some like laser scorches and stuff on his pod and that. I'll mount him in my passenger seat of my van when I'm driving around, so I'll have me co-pilot.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Like I said, you have the right mindset. You're in a place where I've heard you talk before, so I know some of the perspectives that you've had talking about this thing. And it's clear as day. I just get frustrated when I see people wasting their time. Like like I'm sitting down listening to someone having a conversation about this phenomenon, and every word they say is tied into what the government did or didn't do. I'm like, dude, do you not understand that is the distraction? The distraction is to get you to pay attention to these amendments and these bills and these UAP reports so that you're not over here talking with the rest of humanity, trying to figure out the real plan and trying to figure out how to really get this thing going. They're happy as long as we're segregated.
If you spend too much time reading news articles and not going through the bottom of the news article, looking at the source links and going and checking them out, then you're just repeating nonsense you're hearing from other people and you don't actually know what you're talking about. Go through the source links, and most of these articles don't even have a source link. And if you do click them, they're just completely different from what the article headline was, just like they're always clickbait,
One of the big news cycles recently was the whole idea or the, I guess, proof or evidence that was brought to the table that someone had been messing with the wiki pages for certain people and discrediting. Like, okay, we know that that is going to happen. Wow, surprise, surprise! They're trying to change the narrative. Surprise, they've been doing that this whole time. Surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. So anyone who sat there and was surprised by that activity happening is not focused on the right thing. Like, dude, they're doing this sleight of hand over here, and you keep getting fooled by the magician instead of trying to figure out that or trying to understand that it's just a trick that they've learned to do. But you're so amazed. Oh, wow, sleight of hand.
It's like that psychologist bloke that wouldn't use the right semantics. That's what I was saying. Wording really annoys me when people pick on it. He wouldn't use the right wording. And that Jordan Peterson psychology guy, now he can't edit his own Wikipedia. And it just says all this horrendous lies about him. It's complete nonsense. You know, but it's just, he just got cancelled and that's what it is, you know.
And let me say this to my man. I know you're joking, right? You know you're not restricted here, and there's no one restricted here on this channel. No one is blocked at this point. Even the troll that we had is not blocked. So you're definitely not blocked. So I don't know what YouTube is doing to you, but the Social Dig, this channel is not blocked you or blocked anyone in any way. You are all totally free to chat whatever you want. I don't have any keywords or any of that they are. So YouTube might have something going on with you, but this channel does not.
Yeah, I need to tell you something, Rob. I've got like a 8-page list of mental illness, of like pathological narcissism, antisocial disorders. So if I start going weird because someone told me I used the wrong word, just mute me for 24 hours. Don't ban me. I'll be okay. I'll be fine.
Yeah. Right? You're all good, Puck. I've seen you. You know, I got a feel for you.
It's going to happen, and so I'm just pre-warning you. It's going to happen. Just mute me and shut me up. Don't ban me forever.
I appreciate the heads up on that. Yeah, because we want to keep, like, we've had an awesome conversation thus far, and this is really what I want this to be, is a place where we can talk about things that move the needle, and I think we're definitely doing that. And I really appreciate your professionalism in speaking on this thus far. So we all have points in time where we run into different things. Not worried about that. But thanks for the heads up on that. That's good looking out.
Forewarned is forearmed, and so I just
yes. There you go. I like that. I like that.
I'm self-aware, you know. Yeah,
I like that.
This is one of my little birthday dragons I got myself from the cheapy shop. Little Lego.
Yeah. You put that one together.
It's like an Ankylosaurus with the club tail, but it reminds me of the Vulpix Pokemon. So it's so bloody cute because I love water Pokemon.
The Pokemon, it does, yeah.
I got it for $1 from the cheapy shop, little micro build.
That's what's up. I like that. Let me see. It's because okay, now I'm with you, Talon, man. I can get with that. It's because they don't want us connect with Social Dig. Okay, I can get with you on that. I often know, I know that the channel right now, I feel like is not really at a level where they're going to target and ban. I don't think, I think it probably have to be bigger, but you never know. It could be the one thing that we're definitely talking about things to bring humanity together. And we already know there's a list of people out there that they don't want that to happen, because the trickle down effect for all different type of people involved could be, something that causes someone to do that. So I'll keep an eye on that, Tomoth Man. If you tried your other, your Tomoth Man's Goatee account, I wonder if that one is experiencing the same thing. I would take a look at that and see. But yeah. So that's my whole thing, and that's the reason why. And let me actually also stop again, because I know we have some viewers out there who are just lurking and not in the chat, and just want to extend a welcoming hand to have you guys come on out and join the conversation, whether it's in the chat or whether you hit the subscribe button and notification bell and come back another time and maybe join the chat, or even like PuckElf was doing today, jumping on the stage. It's a totally open thing. If you wanted to join Puck and myself and talk about the things we're talking about now, or even take the conversation in a different direction, you're open to do so, and the link is at the top of the chat. Don't be afraid to click it. You don't have to come up on screen. You can have your little logo showing. It doesn't matter. But the more of us talking about these topics and giving opinions and theories is how we move the conversation. It isn't just one person talking. It's about the collective of us bouncing these ideas off each other and trying to really implement something that no one else is doing out there. I've looked around. I've been part of other shows. I've watched other shows, and I know for a fact there aren't any shows that I know of that really are focused on what happens after disclosure, period. The only one I could say maybe is Richard Dolan, because he's written after AD or after disclosure with Bryce Zabel. They're the only ones that I can see that have talked about things that happen after disclosure. And I think really that's the conversation we need to be having, not is the next bill going to go through or is the amendment going to be added? Who cares? If it's added, great. If it brings the results it's supposed to bring, great. That's the cherry on top. But we should never stop having this conversation that we're having. This conversation should be a daily thing until we get to where we're going. Quit being distracted by the other thing. If they do it, great. We'll applaud them when they do it. But until then, history says they won't. So unless you have an infinite life to live, then I probably wouldn't be wasting any time on that stuff. Now, if this type of conversation gets us banned, it is what it is. We know this is all true conversation and factual, and we know what the purpose of this is, the idea behind why we're having these we're not just getting together tonight because we want to hang out. We're really here to have the real conversation. So with that being said, I've talked for a minute. You have anything on that, Elf?
Yeah. Do you want to hear another? If we want to do some more,
go. Yeah, jump into it. I'm gonna sit here. I'm gonna have a couple sips of something, and I'm right here with you.
I got a great Yowie story, and I'll replace all the F-bombs with some struths and some crikeys, right?
Yeah. Okay.
All right. So I'll try to. It's going to come out though, but so we've got this local ironbark hardwood forest. And that's on a mountain between the local rubbish dump. And then over that is this brackish freshwater river with a big rope swing and a big sandbar, and everyone camps around there. And it's a nice big river floodplain flat when it's nice and clear. And so, yeah, people have seen a yowie at the dump for like forever in my town, and the yowie is our version of Bigfoot, and he's the tall skinny one. He's not the big broad like North American Sasquatch style. We call these ones a quinkin. And yeah, so I did not see him myself, but my brother and his friends have seen him, and it's a story around town. It's definitely a thing, right? And we call him Old Fire Hands. And so the idea is they're camping there one night, and these are high schoolers I know that were years above me. And they were camping there one night, and there's probably like about 6 tents, and they're all like pretty far apart because, you know, they're all root rats and we're in high school, and they're all in a semicircle, and then there's like your fire pit in the middle. And all of a sudden at about 3 in the morning, the fire starts flaring up again. And someone gets up to do a whiz, and there's this massive hobo in a fur coat in the middle of summer messing with the fire. And it's like, oi! Because all their tents are like pretty like a good like, what would you call it? Like, 10 meters. What would that be?
About 30 feet?
30 feet, yeah. And so he's like, oi, what are you doing? And then this thing just starts stamping out the fire with its hands. Like that. Grabs a burning log and stands up. And it was 9 foot tall when it stood up. And it's in a fur coat in the middle of summer. And it held this burning log over its head and ran off into the bloody woods back up the mountain towards the dump. And that's why we call him Fire Hands. because he just stamped this fire out with his hands, and it was out in like 5 seconds.
Jesus.
But he came over to nick some fire, and he was stoking it up to grab this log. And when he got busted, he grabbed the log and ran off with it. He was taking it with him. It's like crazy, man.
Yeah. And I'm always on the fence on because I hear all these cryptid encounters and talk to people who have them, and I don't think I'm ever gonna be ready to have that. I just don't. But some people are like, it's okay, you see it, and then it's a thing, and you move on, and it's like
I don't know how I'd react if I came across one. I think I've seen one at night when it was hiding in shadows because we had to pick our friend up. That's another story. He lives right near that dump too, in that Ironbark Forest, and he was home alone as a teenager. And he rang me and said, "Put your mum on." And mum just hung up the phone and said, "Let's go." And I didn't know why. And he ran from his house and bailed in and jumped in the car. And mum was doing donuts in his driveway and just legged it. And I swear in the headlights, I saw something sus and huge hiding behind a gum tree. And it took me half a year to get out of him what happened. And that's my best friend. He wouldn't tell me, but he told me mum and come get me.
Jesus. So Jim, I see you in the back. But it says that you have to add your camera. You have to okay your camera and your microphone. So when you click that link and it brings up the browser, it should ask you if you want to allow your mic and camera, and you have to click allow, and then it'll allow you to come in. Okay, there you go. All right, let me bring you on stage here with us. Okay, Jim, you are on stage with Rob G and PuckElf here. How you doing tonight? And did you have anything you wanted to add to the conversation?
Yeah, I've said to you before, Rob, that I think I work for the aliens.
Yes.
Can you know that? And like that other guy you had on, I think it was last night or something, another guy from Vancouver, and what he is saying, like I have similar experiences to him, and I think he works for the aliens as well, right?
Right.
Oh,
you mean
okay.
Jeff Silver? Yeah.
Yes, that guy. Yeah. I looked into him a little bit, but I think he and I are actually working for the aliens, right? Believe it or not, I do believe that is so. Now, so I work as an environmental engineer, which has got nothing to do with this show. I won't go into details on that, but that's my job, and I'm qualified to do that, and so on. But I also do some of this social engineering stuff and politics and global situation that you have touched on tonight. You have mentioned a few of those things. And in the chat, I asked one question. I got no answer at all. But what I asked in chat is, what world leaders do you like? Are there any world leaders who you think are actually doing a proper job of leading a country? And I wrote down there, my two favorites are Modi of India and Orban of Hungary. Now, I'm working for the aliens right now, what I'm telling you. This is the job I do for the aliens. I try to fix the world, man, fix humanity. That's what I do. That's what I do. That's my job.
What about the Italian Prime Minister lady? What about her? I'm down with her.
Who is that? Who?
The Italian new Prime Minister lady.
Oh, yeah, she's it. I haven't studied her enough yet.
Yeah, she's good too. She's good too.
Yeah.
If you're down with Orban and all them, she's good too. Yeah.
I just mentioned the ones I know for sure. Orban's great, and Modi of India. You know, I really like that guy.
Bro. Yeah, he's cool.
You know what he did? He or the government of India gave away free ivermectin to everybody during the pandemic. They handed out free ivermectin to everybody because it only cost 3 cents a pill. So why not, right?
India also just repassed a law just like last week to renationalize religious discriminated citizens from like the Jains, Indian Christians, Hindus, and they're renaturalizing all those citizens that had fled to other countries, and they're saying, come back now, get your citizenship. And yes, that's fantastic. Yeah, I like Modi. He's cool.
Yeah. Well,
Jim, I would have to say, I would have to ask you this with the question you just asked, because Tamaltman makes a question or makes a comment, which I can bring up and kind of agree with, that they're all a bunch of narcissists. Here's what I would want to ask, because I'm unfamiliar with the people that you mentioned. I would say, when you're asking, are there any leaders of countries that I would be behind? And the question I would have is, are they power hungry? If they're power hungry, I'm good. It doesn't matter who they are, because power is a hell of a drug, and it's all about losing that. If you can have a leader of a government of a country that's okay with the power structure being varied or changing post-disclosure, then I'm okay with that.
They're good for running things, Rob. You know, like a good functional psychopath is your dude you want in HR, because no one wants to be the guy to walk in there and say you're fired. You need that guy in HR, but as long as he's not wild and out of control, as long as he's functional, you know, they have their place. You know,
I like that.
Well, the way I look at it, though, is what leader hates their people and their country? Well, the leader of Canada, my country, the leader of Canada hates Canadians, and he hates Canada. It's obvious. He even says it sometimes. At one point, the Prime Minister of Canada said that the Canadian flag is problematic. That is, people who fly the Canadian flag are a problem, he said. That's what the leader of Canada said. He hates Canada and Canadians. He sent the cops out to beat up a bunch of Canadian old people. You know,
I don't think it can last, like dude. I think they did their shock tactics as their last death throw, knowing they're losing and the public zeitgeist is changing. I don't think it can last, man.
Yeah, I don't think I can change my country by voting. I'll vote. One of my neighbors is all into politics. He's always yakking about politics, right? And I said, okay, you just tell me who to vote for. I'll vote for him. I don't care. I don't give a damn. I don't think it makes a hell of a lot of difference.
Yeah, all my friends ask me who are we voting for, but we're mostly interested in local stuff, because I'm like a landowner and farm rights advocate locally. And like, yeah, feds, whatever, man, you know, they don't fix your local road.
Yeah, when you look at any country, you just have to ask yourself, are they willing to give up or change the power structure? That's how I would look at each country. Look at pick a country and say, is this country is this country so wrapped up in the power that they have that they can't see the best interest of humanity? So that would be my criteria for each country, and I would look down the board, and maybe there's some that you've mentioned that are ones that would be okay with changing the way things are for humanity, and I'm okay with that. I think that there may be some of those out there. I don't know them all to be able to say this right now, but that's the criteria that I would have set up if I were reviewing each power setup to see who would be worthy of taking this past disclosure. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I've thought of different systems of government. I'm not I'm not too I don't like this so-called parliamentary democracy anymore, or whatever you want to call your system of government in the three countries we're looking at here. I'm not impressed with that.
Dictatorship in the two-party system. You know, it's just all the uniparty, you know.
Well, what I say is give politics back to the baboons. That's what I say. Give politics back to the baboons. That's my statement on politics. We somehow
it's already there, mate. Though it's already there. The baboons have got it.
We somehow choose leaders who are grossly incompetent and evil and full of hate. And how do we and destructive? How do we get these people? How do they get into power? I wonder. How do they get into power? I mean, it's absurd. Look what they're doing. I mean, the wars.
CIA puts them there. There you go.
CIA, and then lifetime politicians who bring in the people that they want in there, and then the lobbyists, right? The people who pay campaign costs in order to get certain people in. it's not the people getting them in, it's the special interest people that are funding these campaigns to keep these people in or to get people that they want in. And that's the whole messed up part of the political structure, and why we should want to blow it up and kind of get people in there who genuinely care about people.
You know what those CIA's greatest mission has become? And it's not to impose American politics on the world. It's when someone discovers a new resource, like anywhere in the world, like, oh, here's a new gold deposit, the CIA is instantly in there, because if we don't extract those resources for the benefit of the West, China will step in and do it, right? And so they've got to get there first. And that's where they get into the politics. It's because they've got deals with the corporations that are funding them. And then they set up these puppet industries and governments. And it's just literally to rip off the locals and take their stuff. Because China will do it if America doesn't. And that's the CIA's biggest job, apparently.
Well, yeah, I'm familiar with the eyes, the intelligence organization. Our three countries belong to the Five Eyes. So Canada, the U.S., Australia, UK, and New Zealand. Those are the Five Eyes, right? So our intelligence agencies are all connected together as one power for one agenda. And that is not a good agenda. I don't agree with my own country's agenda.
Well, they don't like Julian Assange. That's why I like Julian Assange.
Well, yeah, that guy worked hard, but I hope they set him free. But we shall see.
Australia's new political climate is we had enough of this stuff, and we just sent a bunch of 8 politicians over there for diplomatic negotiations to try and get Assange repatriated back home.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, I'm
down for that. Yeah, don't let other people take him.
Okay.
If you can sentence him, bring him home to Australia. He's Aussie. You can't charge him with treason of another country.
Okay, but I pick out the really big things, like rather than individuals, which is like the threat of nuclear war is a big thing to me. So I think that's really important.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And
you know, the eco-terrorists and globalists saying, oh, we're going to die in 50 years. I try and remind them, did you know we were dead 50 years ago? Someone's got the red button and we're already on the borrowed time. That's your biggest threat to humanity, is the nuclear weapons. Go deal with that first before we go worrying about the bloody ozone layer, mate. You know?
Yeah. Well, yeah, there's some really big things. My thoughts on nuclear war is that the aliens won't allow it. They've shown that
now. There's new technology now that it's not in development. Of course it is, but they're saying it's not, but it is. And it's called a neutrino particle beam. And you know how neutrinos can pass through anything?
Yeah.
And they pull atoms away from it. And they reckon they can use a neutrino beam to deactivate any nuclear bomb in the world, and you couldn't do anything about it. They could shoot it at you from space through your bunker, and the neutrino beam would pull your radioactive crap out of your bomb till it was no longer functional. And that's cool. That's cool technology. Deactivation of nukes, right? That's good.
Well, the aliens have demonstrated that they can stop nuclear weapons. I mean,
and that's what I mean. Like, humans have figured out a way, and we've thought, and what if the aliens have got neutrino beams and that's what they're doing? So it fits.
Oh yeah, well, I think the aliens are friendly. I have an alien friend, and that's my picture there on the screen. That's the mask he wears on his face. That's not me.
But they've both deactivated and activated nukes, right? So
Well, I'll make a prediction of what could happen, and if my prediction is correct, then people will want to come back to me and say, how the hell did you know that? Here's what might happen. If one country fires off one nuclear missile, that missile will turn and go to the capital city of the country that fires the nuclear weapon. The nuclear weapon will be retargeted
I,
to the
I don't
capital
I
city.
don't think that's a good option either, dude. Yeah, I think just
I'm
taking
making.
down.
I'm saying that's a predict. I'm saying that's my prediction. If my
Fair,
prediction is
fair.
correct, come back to me and ask me how the hell did I know that? Okay, and then
Yeah,
I'll
that's
tell
fair.
you how I
Yeah,
know
that's
that.
fair.
Because
That's
I'm
fair.
in contact with the aliens.
That's fair.
I
If
I
it
work
happens,
work
I'll
for
come
them.
ask you. All right.
Yeah,
If it
by all
happens,
means, I
I'll
work
ask
for
you.
them.
Picture this scenario. This is how I'd look at
The
this.
nuke is what I'm hoping, right? Yeah, I'm putting my vibes into no nuke launches. Yeah, just then we're
I'm
all screwed.
I would hope that powers that be have enough common sense to know that if they do that, it's over for humanity. Now, here's one thing that I am afraid of, and one thing I think is plausible. If and I think it's all based on disclosure, because I think disclosure changes the balance for all powers that be, all dictatorships across the globe. We're talking about Russia, North Korea, and Putin has said, and without getting heavily into this whole political thing, Putin has for surely said that if they're threatened, if they feel threatened, that they will hit the button. We know that Kim Jong Un has said the same thing essentially. So my fear is, and one of the things I think would potentially happen is if you are forced up against the wall, not saying that the US or anyone is coming in to dethrone you or take you out of power, but anything that takes these people out of power is a threat to nuclear war potentially. So if you have a Kim Jong Un who says, I'm not giving up my power, period, and you have a Putin that says the same thing, I think if there's something that comes through, like a disclosure or some sort of event that can change the power balance, that directly threatens them. And I would be worried that it would be one of those people afraid of losing power that would actually hit the button because of that. Simply
Yes.
because they're in a position where they may lose power. So, hey, why not? Let's hit the button and then here we go.
It's backing a
So,
rat
So,
into
Rob,
it's called backing a rat into a corner. And even if you're a bigger, larger mammal and you back a rat into a corner, their natural response is to jump at you and frighten you. And then they get away, right? And that's what happens. If you back someone into a corner, they're going to click it, right? Yeah. And so you need diplomacy around that. Yeah.
hey, Rob, I just wanted to mention that there are alternative translations of what Putin is saying, and I don't watch any mainstream media, so I don't watch their translations of Putin at all. I know what Putin is saying from like I have a bunch of Russian friends and Ukrainian friends online before the whole thing started. I had friends on both sides of that conflict. And so I get the proper translations of what Putin is saying. What he is saying, and he has repeated all throughout. Putin repeats this over and over again. If it's properly translated, he says Russia will not be the first country to fire a nuclear weapon. We will not be the first, he says. But if somebody else fires one, we will join in. But he repeats that over and over again, that Putin will not be the first to fire a nuclear weapon. Now, the ones I worry about are more like North Korea and Iran. I worry about them because
Iran nuclear deal, not good. Don't give them money. They've still got them. Yeah. I'm just going to jump out, by the way, guys, and let you guys talk because I need to go fast with dinner. It's late. It's like 7 p.m. here. So,
yes, Elf, thank you so much for coming in.
Yep.
I really appreciate you stepping up and joining the conversation. And yes, we definitely have to. I'd love to have you come up and speak again at some time in the future here.
All right. Cheers, yours.
no worries, mate. No worries.
Oh, cheers, mate. Fair dinkum.
I always speak Aussie. I lived there. I lived in Australia. I speak the language. But yeah. So when I analyze the global situation, I watch no mainstream media at all, not a bit. I totally alternative information and the best, higher quality information. One needs that, I think. But yeah, so the nuclear situation. Yeah, I don't think it. I don't think there will be a nuclear war because, as I say, I do believe what I said about the aliens. They simply won't allow it, and it's really. And if you understand that the Earth is run by the aliens, well, you would have to agree with that, I think. Uh, you know, if you analyze all the information and go back through time, like I go back to the beginning of Earth before the sun began to shine. I go back to that time and forward from that time, and that happened. If the universe is 14 billion years old, well, there was time before the Earth, before the sun began to shine. There was enough time for an alien species to develop, evolve, go to the next star, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, before the sun began to shine. So this is why, and that's all just standard accepted science. That's all that is, just accepted science. It's very obvious. So I do think that to a large degree the aliens run this planet. Now what their agenda is, I do not know. There are those people like Linda Moulton Howe and so on, and the guy who was on the other night you had on, they believe that the aliens will allow the Earth to be destroyed and then rebuilt again. There's that idea. I don't know that. I don't know about that. I'm more like a worker. You know, I work at a lower level, at a more empirical level, just trying to make sense to people and telling people, well, stealing is bad, you know, murdering is bad, right? So war is bad. You know, I try to stick to the more empirical, simpler things and start at the beginning and do that. That's my job. You know, that's kind of what I do. Just simple morality and just pointing out obvious things.
Yeah. Now, with that being said, Jim, just like Mothman is saying here, IMP ETs will not stop global nuclear war, and it looks like one of the reasons that he feels that way is that they already knew about our testing in 45. Now, I also agree with that, and then I also agree that they did not stop us from, and we didn't technically nuke Japan. That was, I think, the atom bomb and hydrogen bomb. So it was still close enough to be able to take out a group like they did with those weapons. But I think that, I mean, it's a good point that we know they were here for sure. They watched this stuff happen. They watched us test these weapons on ourselves here in the Nevada desert. They watched us drop them on other countries who had no idea of what we had and how catastrophic and devastating that the effects would be. And they kind of just sat around and watched it. So I think that there is for sure a group of them who don't want us to do anything with these and hope that we, you know, go down the right path. But I think there has to be an element of these things that just don't really care, or just are kind of standing by and just waiting to see what happens. We know there are many different species, and I don't think all of their agendas are the same. I think that there are some that just are indifferent to whether we live or not, and then some that are like, hey, no, you guys are special. You guys, we need to make sure that you live. So I think there's an element of both of that there. But the thing is that I think that, you know, maybe they're having their own war out in space, you know, the good versus bad, trying to see who can come out on top to affect how we progress, whether it's annihilating ourselves or coming through to the other side and finding the enlightenment that we are looking for. I think it's just an element of all that there, and we just don't know really what's out there. Like, you have a relationship with ETs that you've come across, and those could be the ones that are really great and nice and want us to do well. But then there could be the ones that you're not in contact with, which are the other ones that really will stand around and watch things happen and don't really care. So if that's going on, then there's the potential that something gets through, that at least one of these, if nuclear war sets off, you know how many nuclear weapons would go up at once. We'd send off 4 or 5, they'd send off 4 or 5, they'd send off 4 or 5, and there'd be so many in the air at one time that there's a very good possibility, based on, we know there's different ETs with different agendas, that something would get through. And it only takes one to kind of shift the power balance in what it is that we understand. But going back to what I was saying earlier, I really think that I don't think it'll ever get to nuclear war, because I think that no one really wants to kill everyone. I don't think that that's a thing. But I do think that if it comes down to losing power, that anything can go at that point, whether it's someone hitting the button or whether it's like we were talking about earlier, countries that were democratic or countries that practice democracy could immediately flip that switch, because we're only one line over from a democracy being a dictatorship. We've seen it kind of go back and forth depending on the situation. And I just think it'd be more so of, hey, we need to get humanity in control. We need to wrangle these guys up and let them know that the power structure is what it is. And we are not willing to change for you, the human being, because it means that, you know, we have to compromise the power that we've developed. And so I think that's the slippery slope. But it's like, how do we get, you know, what is the best way to get to a place where we could all be okay on the other side? And I think that's the only thing, is one of these governments that are respected in the world stepping forward before we get catastrophic disclosure and saying, hey, this is going on. Let's figure out a way to move forward. I think that's the only way that we are able to coexist with power structures and then humanity on the opposite side of disclosure. So I don't know what you think about that, but.
Well, I'd just like to point out that the nuclear test ban treaty did work. It did work. Humans stopped testing nuclear weapons on Earth. And that's a pretty big deal. I mean, yes, I know that, you know, people have used nuclear bombs to kill large numbers of people a couple of times. But that was, I mean, if the aliens allowed that to happen, it was so that we could learn. And then we put into place the nuclear test ban treaty, which worked. It actually worked. So that's a good thing. We made a step in the right direction there, by all means. And that's, you know, a really big thing. So yeah, I agree with Rob when he says that nobody's gonna, well, no half sane person is going to want to destroy all of humanity by letting loose nuclear winter or nuclear storm. I agree with that. But yeah, so anyway, I've given my prediction, and I'm just saying, if it turns out to be true, you know, hey, come back to me and ask me how I knew that, and I'll tell you.
No, and that's the beautiful part. Yeah, you have your outlook, and that's why we are sitting here talking, because I want to be able to come back to you and say, hey, yeah, you were right. And then it may be on the other side of that. But it's just the important part is being able to talk this out, because they don't ever give us, when do we ever have a chance to really, if you think about outside of doing these shows and the time that we get to sit together and have these conversations, when else are we able to formulate anything as humanity? It's never. There is not in any other example of a time where humanity is able to sit down at the table with each other to try to figure out the best way forward for humans. And it is, thankfully, we have this space where we can do that within ufology, because it seems like we're the ones, and there's, I'm sure, other groups outside ufology that care about humanity. But for the most part, as far as the moment that we're in and the ability to alter the path of humanity, we're living in a moment where it's a reality for us to be able to do so. A lot of those other organizations that focus on humanity aren't really focused on UFOs, even though UFOs in the ET aspect is really the tool that they should also use to try to affect the change of humanity for the positive. Mm-hmm. And it's just that, you know, it really, we have to call bluffs. We have to call bluffs. These countries, and here's what they'll do, and we've talked about this before. That's when they want to call you radical, and that's when they want to say you're anti-government and things of that nature, because you want to see humanity prosper. You're not anti-government. You're anti-power structure. You're annihilating other human beings. You're anti that. You're not anti-government, but they will always want to paint us as that, which is why when we have these conversations, I try to kind of stay even keeled, and I point out the government as being that, because that's what they are. But at the same time, the moment that we get to keep saying the word government and revolt and revolution and things of that nature, that's when they put us on that list, and that's when they try to snuff out the movement that we're trying to do, which all we're trying to do is make sure that humanity has an ability to affect where we go from here, whether, and it should be for all good. Like the governments, if they sat down at a table with us and said, okay, what is your outlook for humanity for the future? On the humanity side, it would be all positive things like, hey, we get better, we get enlightened, we get to a place where there's no war. These are all things they are against. They feel like we need to have weapons. They feel like we need to be the most superior threat on the planet, which goes against everything that humanity wants. So it's like they've drawn the line on us, and they've shown it. We've seen it all this year, last year. They've literally drawn lines in the sand and said, hey, we're on this side. You guys are on that side. That's just how it is. And it's like, okay, well, then what do we do at this point? The only time in our history in America that we've been able to affect change on behalf of humanity is when we've done things like marching on Washington and Million Man marches, and times where humanity came together as individuals and formed one big unit. And those were the things that always moved the needle. Those are the things that they don't want us to do, because then we get to control what the outcome is. And I think if we do that, if we galvanize that sort of movement within humanity, then that's when you see these democratic or these democracies flip the switch and turn into dictatorships, because then they have the muscle, the power, the military, the weapons to control us as humanity, because we don't have anything. We have our right to bear arms here in America, which a lot of people do have weapons, which is a good thing, because we should be able to defend ourselves from whatever threat that is, even if it's your own government is trying to step in and control what it is that you get to do within your life. So I think we're just at a point where it's a really slippery slope, but you have to look at both sides. Government and power is good to kind of keep out the other bad guys, but the real people that you should be protecting yourself from are your own power structure in your own country. The people that you are trusting to keep you safe are the same ones that have proven in the past that they will give you syphilis, that they will subject you to all sorts of things that will kill you, and not care about it and try to sweep it under the rug after the fact. And is that really something that you want to have to deal with, or is that something that you want your descendants down the line for the next 200-300 years to have to deal with the same sort of power structure, or would you like for that to change? And I think most people would agree that war is not the answer. Developing these nuclear weapons is not the answer, but the governments don't care what you think about that. They're going to do that regardless of what you think. So they're not on your team when it comes down to making sure that we can sustain ourselves and continue the species on for years to come. They always throw out the threat that we'll end this at any moment. We'll hit the button. We'll force Russia to do this. We'll, and it just is, it's a clear divide between the two sides. And that's why we have to wake up as human beings and realize that we are the ones with the power, not individually, but as a collective. And we just have to figure out the best way to make everybody else wake up to that fact, so we could have we have 8 billion people on the planet, and probably less than 1% of the 8 billion are the people in power, which means we have probably 7 point something billion people who are part of humanity who really can make the decisions to change things here. And it's about making that movement happen. They don't want us to do it.
Yeah. I don't know. One of my comments in the chat was there that in universities now they have courses in lying where you learn to lie. Okay, and the people who take those courses are political scientists, journalists, and lawyers, of course. So people are interested in politics, they learn how to lie, and they're very good at it. I've studied lying a lot, and I'm quite amazed at how these liars are so successful in fooling the majority of the public. It's quite shocking, but so that's a basic moral thing. I think truth is moral. It's moral to tell the truth, and in my own life, I applied that because I started out doing engineering, and I realized I was building big machines to rip the earth apart, and I realized I don't really want to do that. It's corrupt as hell, and so I became an environmental engineer, which is where I can always tell the truth. I'm a whistleblower in engineering. I've done whistleblowing quite a bit, and so I think truth is moral, and I think. Yeah, I'll just say that much. It's a pretty basic statement. It's a philosophical statement that truth is good and lying is bad. So there's so much corruption, unfortunately. And
Yeah, there is. And the fun and the coldest part about it, is that we gave them the power to do it. There was a point in time where there was a decision made that we would allow these politicians and these governments and these powers that be speak for us. We gave them the authority to do so, and then we funded them to do it. And they still take 50% of your money that you earn, period, regardless on whatever your income level is. They're still taking X amount of money from you to fund the things that they want to do and not the things that you want to do. Like, when has there ever been a situation in your own life where you put money up on the table and you didn't have a say so in how that money was spent? Anytime you go into business with someone, you are a percentage owner of whatever it is that this money goes towards. And it's no different in the country that you're in. If you pay taxes, you have a buy-in in how this money gets spent. There should never be a time where it gets to a point to where you're a silent partner now, and you don't get to speak up and make any decisions or choices on what it is that is done with this money. And they're spending they're going on vacations, they're going on trips, they're spending money on $1,000 staplers and just stupid stuff that we would never agree to happen. We're sitting here going pillar to post, pinching pennies, and sitting here deciding on things that we get to have or not have in our own personal lives. But the powers that be get to take the rest of your money, the money they take from you before you even get your check in your hand, and they take that money and they do whatever they want to do with it, and they tell you, so what? F off. We don't care. We're not going to tell you. They have the nerve, the audacity to sit at the table and say that to you. What type of, if this was on a personal level and you went into business with someone and you put in money on something, and one of your business partners came to you and said, too bad, you don't have any input of that, you would do something to affect that situation, whether you'd step out of it, you'd ask for your buyout, give me my money back, let me go my own way. And you don't get any of that when you're dealing with these governments, because they will befriend you, or they will act like they're your friend until the moment where you've pressed them or put them in a situation where they have to now draw the line, which is what they've done to us with this whole disclosure thing. The ascension of humanity should matter for them too, because they have descendants that may never go into politics. They have descendants that may just end up being shop owners or something that has nothing to do with politics, and they're making decisions that affect their own descendants down the line as well, negatively. And it's like, when will we ever have a moment in our history as humanity where we get to have a chance to step up and really have voices heard and really make sure that things change? It's only now, and we're lucky to be in this moment. And the thing is that because once you realize that this is what it is, you have the ability to, even if you're only doing a little part, to do something, you know what I mean, to help affect that change and change this power structure. It has to change. The ETs won't let us out there until we change the way we're doing things here. And our powers that be are in no time soon will they be changing the way that they conduct business. which means we don't get to ascend as humanity, and we don't really get to go out there and be a part of some galactic federation or whatever is happening out there, because our powers that be are too power hungry and too close-minded to allow that to happen. And I hate talking like this because sometimes it makes me feel like I'm on that radical side, right? You have like Ted Kaczynski's and people like that who are truly radicals and threats to their countries, and that's not what we are. But in the eyes of the powers that be, we technically are a threat to their well-being and to the way of life that they want, perceive this thing to be. And we're not actually a physical threat. We're just a threat in the ability that we have to make changes for the better, which for them, they don't look at it that way. And it's just, that's why I try to reel myself in sometimes. And the reason why I talk about this and to get so passionate about it, because I care how this works out for humanity. I may not be here to see it when it gets implemented or when our grandchildren get to experience this whole enlightenment thing, but I know that as long as I'm breathing, that I have to be able to do what I can to try to move that needle. And like I said, that's why I always want to put out there, I'm not anti-government. I'm not, you know what I mean? And I don't want to be painted into a corner or portrayed to be that way. I'm just pro-humanity. And whatever it takes to make things better for humanity is what I'm with. You know what I mean? So if that means that the government has to be ridiculed for the things that they're doing to us, then so be it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, and on the money thing there, if people are going to go out and vote, look at the politicians. Are you voting for a politician who's gotten rich by being a politician, or for being a politician? I wouldn't vote for people like that. That gives the power to the money, right? And you don't want to vote for people who get rich being politicians. But that's a pretty basic thing. But yeah. I've thought of what if I was the dictator of Canada? Because really, Canada and the U.S. are, as I see it, they are dictatorships. The public opinion is controlled by the media, and the media, which I do not watch, and the mass opinion can be manipulated this way or that, and it has been. I mean, it's always been that way. I mean, really, the people of Japan, when in the 1930s, when Japan was attacking and stealing from Korea and China, and they were attacking and killing people and mass murdering people and so on in those countries, the people of Japan, they went along with it. You didn't have it. You just gotta go along. I'm not one to go along for the sake of going along. I'm not one of those kind of people, which is why I can't talk to a lot of people very openly, because I just don't go along with the mass opinion. I never do.
Exactly. I think it was Kwame Brown. Shout out to Kwame Brown. He talks about the go along, get along gang, and that's exactly what you're talking about. Now, I do want to look at this question. Paramarv will comment. He put in the chat here, says Social Dig, those $1,000 staplers are funding the secret space programs, DUMBs, or deep underground military bases, the underground train networks, etc. Someday we may benefit from it. And I did a show on top secret government, like I talked about earlier, where I showed so many examples of how the government the government does have the ability to keep secrets from you if they want to. And unless they're uncovered by reporters, investigative reporters, then the truth never gets out. I also, in that same video, made points to show all of the continuity of government facilities that are all around the country. These are deep underground bunkers in places where they take the government in the event of something catastrophic happening up here on the ground. They don't have those things for us as humanity. We're on the outside. When they lock those doors, when they go in and they slam those blast-proof doors and they lock the key to those facilities, guess who's on the outside? You, me, Her, him, everybody else out there, we're the ones that are left outside to perish or whatever may happen behind the reason why they're locking themselves up. But it's for continuity of government. It's for continuity of the power structure for that to survive some sort of catastrophic situation. It's not for humanity as a whole. They wouldn't care if we got decimated down to a small number, as long as the power structures and those people get to make it to the other side. Then it's business as usual for them, right? So with that being said, Paramore, those space programs, DUMBs, underground train networks, we actually may not benefit from those and likely won't benefit from those, because the only way that we would is if those power structures weren't there. They are occupying those things when the events go down. They will not let us in. We will not be able to come in. And that's where I got when I talked to Rod Martin from Why the Big Secret, The High Strangeness. I told him, what we have to do as humanity is we need to go map out these cave systems, these natural cave systems that are out there everywhere. There's a YouTube channel I watch where all they do is go into these caves, and these are extensive caves that could really hold an enormous amount of people. And those are the things that we need as humanity to know where those locations are in the event that something goes down. Because I'll tell you what, if you don't have money to build a bunker, that is your bunker. Your bunker is one of these natural cave systems, but your bunker will not be in these continuity of government facilities that they've built. They have built these only for those people in power to be able to continue the power on the other side of some sort of cataclysm. And so it'll never be a situation where they're building these things for us, but they're building it with our money, which is the slap in the face. It's like, we're building this stuff for us. You don't get to come in the cataclysm, and hopefully you survive. If you're on the other side, we'll see you there. If not, oh well, nice knowing you. And they've used your money to do this the whole time. How brazen is that for them to take that approach? They've shown you they don't care.
And people like Bezos and Bill Gates, they have their bunkers as well, right? So they're thinking in the same way,
Oh yeah.
But, yeah.
No, leaving the planet. These the Elon Musk and the SpaceXs, they have the ability to leave the planet. Do you think they have a seat for you on one of those things? They don't. They don't have a seat for you. They don't have a seat for me on one of those things. It's they get to go, and you get to sit here and deal with whatever it is, and hopefully you make it through, because that's the only way you're going to get to see the other side of that. Otherwise, it's going to be the people within that capsule, or the people who are signed up for whatever, those people get to go. It isn't you. Don't ever think for a second it's you, because you're not going to get the phone call to come into the facility. You're going to have to sit out here with the rest of us and try to figure it out. And if we haven't even sat down to have the conversations, we don't even have a plan to know what we're going to do when that day comes. That's why they don't want us having these talks here. These talks we're having here are the talks that kind of facilitate the mindset that prepare us for things like that. So step one, map out one of these cave systems. No, you may not ever need it, but you may need it at some point. And that goes back to, I used to look at doomsday preppers as crazy people. They're prepping for something that if you're baked into society and the thought process they want you to think within the society that they've created, that you won't ever need that. But then you see a pandemic that can break down civilization within days. So if they could show you that, then you're not as protected as you think you are, for one. And so that means the preppers are actually smart for just being prepared. Even if the event doesn't happen, they're at least in a position where they are going to be okay for a little while until they figure something out. For a lot of other people who are too busy to have the conversation, you're not going to be in that place. And we should want for each other and our descendants down the line to be able to make it past whatever event we go through, whether it's asteroid impact, whether it's a nuclear situation, or whether it's how we're going to deal with these ETs going forward, whether they want to do something bad to us or if they want to help us. Either way, we just need to be prepared. It's smarter to be prepared than to not be prepared.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really what all these conversations are for, just to make sure that we're having the conversation, because like I said before, we aren't outside of this ufology situation and these shows that we go to and talk amongst ourselves at these shows. Outside of this, no one else, we're not having a conversation anywhere else. And it's an important conversation that we need to have. So
yeah,
that's why I say that's the reason why I do this. I don't do this to make money off of anything. I don't do this to monetize. If my channel monetizes, great, but I'm not doing it for that. I'm doing this because I don't see anywhere else where we're having this conversation. And it's sad to me. You know what I mean? I want other people to copy what we're doing and do it over at other places. So at least the conversation is being had in other places and more people are being talked to about how we need to be moving forward as human beings. You know what I mean? So
yeah, it's the information sphere, you know. Yeah, I try to have a positive impact on the information sphere as much as I can. And like I say, I do very deep research into certain issues, you know, very deep. And so I can find out what the truth is, and then I can push the truth. So that's, you know, my job, kind of, you know, it's my work. But yeah, that's why, and I recommend to people, please don't watch the mainstream media. Please don't believe a word they say. It's, oh my goodness, that's the first thing people should see. I don't know why people don't see that, because I saw early on, back in when I was like 30 years old, I restarted my education, went back to university and all that, and I learned that the government and the media are lying to us all the time. And I learned that from my own experience and from George Orwell, who saw the same thing, of course, brilliant guy. And, you know, it's so obvious. I don't know why people don't see that. Why do so many people not see that CNN is lying to them? I mean, why don't they get that? You know, it's quite amazing.
Well,
but
I think the main thing is that they fill our lives with just so many things to keep us distracted. And that's just the key for them. As long as we are happy in the lives and daily lives that we live, we're able to sit down and watch Spaced Out Radio at night. We're able to go to the store, go bowling, or go do this when we want to. So this is supposed to be, in their eyes, satisfactory for human beings to live out their lives. They're dictating how you should live out your life. And just like I pointed out, I know you were probably here the day we talked about this, but just looking at the whole societal structure on how they really have this set up. This machine was set up before all of us were born, and we were born into it. So we were born into a system that told us that you need to go to school, you need to learn these particular things, and then once you hit 18 years old, you need to join the job force, which powers these machines. And essentially, that's essentially what we're set up to do. And then I made a point to where I was like, okay, well, if you look at it, you come in working at 18 and you retire at 65, that's like 47 years of work. So if you take a salary that is what some people consider livable or respectable, $50,000 is like the base level. And if you do the math on that, and I could do the rough math, but I could tell you that $50,000 a year times 47 years ends up being like, you know, $2 million or $3 million, something like that. And that's before taxes. Mm-hmm. So they are essentially walking up to you at 18 years old and saying, if you lock yourself into this program or into this system and keep your blinders on, that we're willing to pay you $3 million for your life, Monday through Friday, for 47 years straight. If you're lucky enough to work every single day. So you're not even going to make that. So they're really telling you that your life is being bought for a couple $1,000,000, and there isn't anyone in this chat or anyone that would listen to this show at any point in time who would dare at 18 years old sell their life for $2 million, 2, 3, 4, let's say 5 million on the high end. There's no one here that would agree at 18 years old to take $5 million, and then now you're indebted to this company or this particular entity for the rest of your working days. And then when you're done, they make sure that they only give it to you in increments, so you don't really get to save it, because the cost of living absorbs everything that you make. And at the end, when they spit you out that machine at 65 years old, you don't have anything left. And all you are is something that is useless in their eyes to the machine. You're too old to work now for them. So they'll spit you out, and then, hey, good luck with the rest of your life. Now we're going to take your grandchild and put them in the system and start them on that same path. When you look at it, it doesn't make sense that this is okay in any way, shape, or form. And we consider ourselves to be lucky because we're the richest country, but you're barely surviving on $50,000, and that a lot of people are actually surviving on less than that. Let's be real. So you know, when you look at that and you look at how this is set up, it's not set up for your favor. You have the anomalies that get the breakout and maybe are entrepreneurs and make this or make that. But it's not set up for you to do anything but what they want you to do for the entirety of your life, which is exactly what they're doing with these UAP reports and the whole government controlled disclosure. They're making you waste your days and your weeks and your months and your years focusing on whether or not they're going to do something in regards to disclosure. And guess what? At the end of the day, you've been fooled because you wasted. And a lot of people in this first wave of ufology will tell you, the ones that are still here with us now, a lot of them are dying off, but if you ask them, they've been in this ufology field for 40, 50 years pushing for this and are still in the same spot they were 50 years ago. They have completely wasted their days, months, and years focusing on the sleight of hand that the government has put up, saying, oh, we'll promise we'll do this. Oh, we'll let it out. Eventually it'll come out. We'll do this. It's no different than right now. They're telling you controlled disclosure will take you 25 to 30 years. For most of us sitting here talking, we'll all be dead and gone at that point, and they know that. They know that 20, 30 years is enough time to get a lot of us out of the picture. So my voice here talking as passionately as it is talking 20, 30 years from now, they know it won't be there to have these conversations, and that's what they would rather do. So you do that enough times, and now you're a few generations separated from the initial request to release this information. That's the plan for them. That's the distraction. So if you fall into, and that's what makes me upset, is when I see people who sit up and allow themselves to be sucked into that and waiting on every waking word of a UAP report or a amendment, addition to amendment, or potential whistleblower that might come out. You should never be wasting your days and months and in any of your lifetime on that stuff, because it is not designed for you. You know what I mean? You're going to, at the end of the day, you're going to be a Stanton Friedman who never got to see disclosure, even though you pressed for it and you were in it for so many years and you were so pivotal in things that may have moved some, but not enough for you to get what you wanted within your lifetime. So are you willing to sign up for that? Are you willing to just sit up and allow to involve yourself in conversations about what the government did or didn't do, when at the end of the day, the government is set up to outlast all of us in all of our lifetime? The power structure that's there has been there for 80 years. That's longer than a lifetime. And it's going to continue to be there. It'll be there 100 years before you know it. And that's 2 or 3 people's lifetimes if you look at it. So what are we really doing here, man? You know what I mean?
Are we changing public opinion? I have seen some change, some shift in public opinion anyway. So and I try to push that as well. Like, one thing I did was I would be in the lineup at the grocery store, right? And that's pretty boring. You got to stand there and wait, and there'd be somebody behind me. I'd turn around to the person, a stranger behind me. I'd say, "Have you ever seen a UFO?" Yeah, I started a lot of conversations that way. I just turn around to the stranger, go up to a stranger and say, "Have you ever seen a UFO?" And this expands the public discussion on that, and so that's I think public opinion has changed in the last few years. I think a lot of people will say that they believe in UFOs. They'll talk about UFOs. A lot of people now will do that, so that's a good thing. That goes in the direction of disclosure, and I think that's a good thing. And I'll keep doing that. I'm going to talk more to some of my neighbors. Just recently, I've told them. I said to this one guy that I work for the aliens. I said, "Hey Pete, did I ever tell you I work for the aliens?" And Pete is the kind of guy who doesn't believe in that sort of stuff, eh? But I'll talk to him again about it. I don't care.
Well, here's what I'll say with that, Jim. It makes total sense when you say that you work for the aliens. And for some people who are like, "What? You work for the aliens?" It would make sense, because if there are a group of aliens that want to see humanity progress and succeed, then it would make sense that those entities would bypass these powers that be, because they understand what this is, that we're on a slave planet. Our slave masters are these powers that be that dictate how you get to live your life or not live your life. You know what I mean? So it would make total sense that there are a group of ETs that are saying, you know what, let's bypass this government. It's obvious that they don't speak for the rest of these guys. Let's talk to the people. Let's go directly to the people. I'm going to give this person an experience and give them the information that they need, which would tie into what a lot of people talk about, of getting these downloads of information and having these relationships with ETs who try to give them the keys to what it is, to where we need to go. And that's kind of why I can lean into that idea of, having ET controllers, essentially, that might understand that they need to sidestep these power structures, because they probably have talked to them and realized that they don't have the rest of our best interests at heart. And they're like, hey, you know what? Let me get these guys out the way and talk directly to humanity. And I think that's a very plausible thing, and it makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will say, I don't necessarily trust this guy I call my alien friend. I don't necessarily trust him. He could be on the wrong side. I don't know. But I do, support truth and morality and good against evil and things like that. Pretty, really obvious stuff. And learning. I support learning as well. And that's another area I work in academia, because many people are saying now, and these are academics, PhD type people, are saying that the universities have gone right off the rails. They're just insane, the clown world in the universities, right? And they're fighting against that, because that's not our top knowledge, or should be our top knowledge, but it isn't. They've gone right off the rails. Oh my goodness! So you can. So I also will try to fix academia if I can. I work in that direction as well, and so I work on many different levels. But,
well, with that being said, I think we definitely had an awesome conversation. Let me go ahead and get to a couple of these questions here. Let's see. Okay, I want to give you a chance to answer this here, Jim. We have Paramarv asking that you had mentioned working with the aliens a couple of times now. Can we get some more information about what that role is, or what your role is in that?
Well, I started having paranormal experiences when I was about 20, early 20s, and I started putting them together more and more. And then the path of my life changed at 31 years old, where I got sick and I had to quit my career. I was getting rich working in the system, and like Rob said, working in the system and not asking any questions, just doing whatever they told me. I did that until I became disabled and had to quit my career entirely, and got time to think about stuff. Kept having paranormal experiences and wondering what the heck is going on around here. Like about once a year, I would have a crazy paranormal experience, like. Oh my goodness, let me see. Well, some helicopter flying or circles around me up in the mountains, flying in circles around me, and some guy, 8 foot tall guy, hanging out the side of the helicopter, smiling at me. That face you see there, that's the face of the guy. He's smiling at me, and I established a communication with him, mind to mind, and I asked him, "Why are you messing with me?" Well, that was my alien friend. That was the first time I realized this guy's got to be an alien, because I'd seen him twice before. I saw his hand. I knew his hand was like over a foot long, and he has 4 fingers, and they're very long and skinny. So I know bloody well he's an alien. But even though he wears this mask, but that's when I came to the realization that these people have been guiding me to learn things. And at the same time, I was working as a whistleblower and an environmental engineer and all these kind of things. And I realized that I was doing what they would want me to do, because the aliens often say we have to save the planet and war is bad and all that sort of stuff, and nuclear power and nuclear weapons are wrong and bad. We know that the aliens say these things. We've heard that throughout all the alien stories that we hear. And so I realized that, gee, I'm kind of like already working for the aliens, and now they've revealed themselves to me, and come down and sat right beside me at one point. This guy, my alien friend, as I call him, at one point he came and sat down right beside me, and in a library, and he put his hand on my desk, and his hand was over a foot long with 4 fingers, no thumb, and I'm looking at this hand, I'm thinking, okay, this guy's an alien. He's got to be, and plus he's 8 feet tall. And on that occasion also, my alien friend had brought 4 grays as kind of his protectors or bodyguards. He brought them with him as well. So I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, okay, these are the aliens. So there's no doubt about it now. I've seen them. Like, I've been a foot and a half away from this guy. He almost touched me, literally that close. And I'm looking straight at his hand from a foot and a half. My eyeballs are a foot and a half away from his alien hand. So this is how I know that I am contacting these aliens. They don't give me dreams. None of my experiences have anything to do with dreams or what is that? What do they call those downloads? No, I'm not aware that I'm getting downloads, but then I have not been hypnotized to see if that is possible. I suppose it could be possible, but the things I do are the things they often talk about, and the values that the aliens have, and it seems to me, if you listen to other experiencers, they will say like that. When they're amongst aliens on board a craft or something like that, that everybody tells the truth all the time, because everybody can read everybody else's mind. And I learned at an early age, I learned about reading minds and telepathy and all that. And I knew that was real. By the time I was 20 years old, I was totally aware of that people can communicate mind to mind with each other and with animals and stuff like that. I mean, I was already doing it. It's always been part of my life. And then I meet the other people who are telepathic. Of course, we meet each other because we say hi with our minds. We say, oh, hi. Mind to mind, we say hi. They say, oh, hi, you're another telepath. Yeah, right. Yeah. So we know each other, and so this is how I know what I'm saying, or why I don't know anything 100%, but I'm 98% certain of a lot of things. So that's what did I answer his question? I think I did.
Yeah, no, you did. And here's where I'll end that off, because like I said before, I believe if that's the case, I would say that this group, I totally feel that there's definitely a group of ETs within these mixes of different ones that want to see us prosper and want to see us ascend and know that we're at the cusp of doing that, and may actually incorporate individuals within humanity. I'm not one of them that I know of. I don't believe I've been contacted directly by any, but and maybe they're not doing it because I'm already speaking what it is that they would want us to speak about anyway. So I would say that I would say that you're probably not the only one working. I think that they probably have us all working for them in that aspect, which is why we're able to sit down and have these conversations, and which is why we're going to go ahead and make sure that the needle moves. And we're not going to be fooled by the sleight of hand that the people that are literally sitting here trying to do this in front of our face, like we're just that naive and silly, that won't work on us. So here's what I'm going to do, Jim, because I think we had a real tight, concise show, and I really think that we got a lot of good data in there, and I want to cap it there. I want to make sure that we keep it right where it's at. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and wrap the show up. We're going to leave it here because I think this is a really great package, what we did tonight. And we're going to do this more often. And like I said, I've been sick. And, I'm really just getting back around to it. So I want to make sure that we're coming here, having these conversations, the ones they don't want us to have, and we'll continue to do that. So with that being said, Jim, I'm going to go ahead and get ready to wrap up this show. I really thank you for coming in and giving your opinion like you always do. It's always valuable. It's always appreciated. And then also the same thing for you, PuckElf, for coming in first night, right? You didn't even know we were doing this. And then you chose to step in and be one of the first people to join the stage. And I think that's very important. And I would implore anyone else out there, if you're just watching, if you feel the same way about where you want humanity to go, I would implore you to come on and give your opinions on things and theories and ways that maybe we can make this change. Let's talk this through. So with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap it up here, Jim, and then we'll go ahead and do this again next week. Well, actually, we'll be back here Wednesday.
I agreed. That's why I'm on. I like coming on with you because I agree with you.
I appreciate that.
See everybody. Bye for now.
All right, Jim. Take care.
Bye.
Gosh, guys, this is what it's all about, man. This is why I could come off of 3 hour after hours and then come and do this, because it's very important. This show is now cataloged and it's there. And I implore anyone out there, share the show, not just for me. It has really nothing to do with me. Share the message with the rest of humanity. Say there's other people in your daily lives that may also be able to come in and give some great, perspective on what this is, things I haven't even thought about, right? And obviously you can tell I'm thinking all the time, and I get really impassioned by this, and it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me. I care for everybody out there. I look at everybody equally, and one of the main mottos of this show is that you come in and you strip yourselves of your religious beliefs, your political affiliation. You strip yourself of all these things, and you come in and have a conversation as a human being. That's what this place is for. I know there are definitely probably people in the chat that may be Republican or Democrat from opposite sides. We don't care about that, right? Whatever moves the needle for humanity is what we're going to do here. And that's the reason why I want to cap it here, because for people who watch later, I want to make sure that the message is concise. The conversation and topics that we touched are concise. And I really feel good about the conversation we had today. So I want to thank everybody who participated on stage and in the chat. And like I said, for those out there who just watched tonight and just listened in, I appreciate that as well, because it takes your ears. Maybe you didn't chime in tonight, but maybe you'll go tomorrow and talk to your friend about what it is that we talked about and kind of help galvanize this thing that we have to move. It's not any sort of radical, revolutionary political movement that we're doing. We're just trying to do something to better the path that we have for humanity, because we're in a moment where we can control where this goes. So with that being said, Paramarv asked, have I gotten any feedback from the Scientology community, perhaps, and offered to clear you? Paramarv, not at this point. Like I said, I don't think that, for Scientology, you have to make a little more noise, right? And I don't think that this channel is at a level where the noise is going to be loud enough for them to, but I would not be surprised if they had me on a side list that said, hey, maybe if it starts doing something, then maybe we'll kind of tune into it. I'm pretty sure they have the name of the channel, if at the very least. But yeah, they have not done anything at this point, and who cares if they do, right? It's all about moving the needle for humanity. You've had people in the past that had to take falls on the behalf of everyone else, and I'm willing to do that, because it's not a selfish thing. This matters for your kids, for your grandkids, for my grandkids, for my grandkids, right? All the way down the line. And just to know that our conversations played a part in that is a big thing for me. So let me see. I had a couple other things I flagged here. Lex Diaz said, damn, Rob G went there. That's what they don't want us to know or talk about. And it's the truth, right? Like I said, it's a fine line on the government's end where they want to paint you as a radical. But Paramar made a great point. As long as it isn't promoting violence, which we would never do, it is never the way. I just want to see humanity get to that better place, right? I don't care where you're from, what race. It doesn't matter to me, man. Let's move the needle together, right? Lex Diaz makes another great point and says we are all still slaves, which we are. And I just want to reiterate once again, the goal is to get this to people who aren't already having the conversation. We already know all this. We are all like-minded people, which is how we're brought together to do this, which is why I'm okay with slow organic growth, because the people that subscribe are people that also care about having this conversation. And if we can get those people to come in, more of those people who are like-minded and want to see humanity move forward in a positive way, then this becomes the wave. This becomes the movement. So please share with people out there that you think could benefit from having this conversation. And if you were just lurking, please consider joining us on the conversation. Please hit the subscribe button if you have not hit it. Please hit the notification bell so whenever we go live, it's never about any BS here. It's always about speaking the truth. And you might be the next person to get up here and speak your truth and help this conversation. So with that being said, definitely want to thank everybody for coming on in. This is how we close it out. I want to bring this graphic up because this is something that this show is built on. We do what we do here for the positive progression of humanity. If you go back to the very first video we ever did here, you will understand that this has always been the motto. This has always been the theme. It's never about grow my channel or let's monetize. Never about that. It's been about this message right here from the beginning. Seeing humanity progress because we have the opportunity now to do it in this disclosure moment. So hopefully the message spreads. Hopefully the movement spreads. Hopefully other channels start taking the same approach. Let's move the needle, guys. You know what I mean? We do great work on Spaced Out Radio After Hours. We bring the great interviews. We come over here and we have those real conversations that you just can't have anywhere. So perfect combination, perfect duo. Love to see you guys back here. I want to thank everybody for coming on out. Everyone, every single one of you who decided to show up tonight and even just listen or participate. My gratitude is, I can't even show you, right? So just want to thank you so much for coming. It's been a pleasure. You know what I mean? Just speaking truly from my heart. I hope you can see that I'm a genuine person. I'm just like you. I'm just like, no different than anyone else. I just happen to have a place where I can talk about it. And I know you would do the same if you set it up, and you probably will at some time in the future, which is an excellent idea. And you should definitely consider doing that. So with that being said, Jim, thank you for coming on up. PuckElf, always love your input. Every time I've seen you, you've always said some really compelling and really brilliant things. And keep doing what you do. We will be doing this thing again shortly. Notification bell. We'll be back Wednesday. We're going to get the part 2 of the Scientology show together. So like I said, we may just air the first episode, do like a re-air the same day as we do the second one so we can piece it together. And then we're going to keep moving forward. So with that being said, thank you all for coming on over from the after hours. Thank you for giving me your time. You know, like I said, man, it's all family. We're all humanity family. Take this number down, put it in your phone, and just know this is a number you can call at any time, 24 hours a day, 856-843 or 856-THE-DIGG, 24-hour line. You can always leave a voicemail, talk about your experience. I'll play the recording on the show. But it's a place where you can leave me voice messages, text messages, send me photos of sightings, of ET interactions, whatever you want. But just know that we will continue to have this conversation. I want to thank everybody for coming out to the Social Dig. Let's keep the needle moving out there, guys. Have a great rest of your night. You guys all take care. Thanks for coming.